And we are streaming away. We're streaming today. I hope you're doing fine. There's so many streams for us to see, but this one here is mine. We're streaming today. We're streaming today. We're streaming. We're streaming today. Well, thank you, DM, coming in and saying, nice voice, John. You should sing for a living. Oh, if I could. If I could. That's not off the table. I suspect that as things open back up and the open mic nights open back up, yes, I very much would like to make some money singing, but capitalism refuses. It's not a conducive system for these sorts of things. So, thank you, I know. Bravo, bravissimi. Good to see you, bud. I'm glad that you're in here. Oh, had a wonderful, wonderful day today. I had a friend come over. Feel like I'm like all out of socializing, you know? I went to a rally on Monday. Had a Tuesday was with my cousin, and now with a friend today. Hey Ruth, how you doing? So tomorrow is going to be sleeping. I'm going to sleep. That's what I'm going to do tomorrow. I am going to sleep. Went down and got some flyers printed for the rally, August 21st. If you are in Toronto, August 21st, 11 o'clock, Yonge and Dundas Square, we are going to take over the streets to protest the abandonment of the poor. So, went down, getting some flyers printed out, going to hand those flyers out, try to get as many people as we possibly can out to that rally, because we have to start fighting back against this nonsense, right? We have to start fighting back. And so, of course, I've got some material prepared here. Later on, I've got some videos I could show. Well, and you're with us in spirit, Ruth. I always know. So this is for a tweet from Derek Johnson from the NAACP. If it were black people storming the Capitol on January 6th, the walls would have been dripping in blood. Not only was it an attempted coup on our democracy, it was white supremacy in plain sight. We need answers, and we demand justice. This is not a partisan issue. I really do think the Republicans are going to get absolutely pilloried over this insurrection and the way that they are reacting and acting in regards to this insurrection. I really do think that the American people are going to respond very negatively towards these Republicans and how this all went. We'll see how it goes in the midterms, but if there isn't some like legitimate investigation and if there isn't like legitimate consequences for the people who are obviously involved in this, I don't feel good at their chances in the upcoming midterm elections, honestly. DM, you're saying you ran across a compelling video posted today? Well, tell me more. Am I going to see Peterson with his grimace today? A great quote in response to a CNN tweet. Scared by that new report on climate change? Here's what you can do to help. Eat less meat, about 30%. Swap your car or plane ride for a bus or a train. Use a smart thermostat in your home. And of course, this gets responded to by Adam H. Johnson. Reminder that 100 corporations are responsible for 71% of global greenhouse gas emissions, and presenting the crisis as a moral failing on the part of individuals without noting this fact is journalistic malpractice. Breaking news. Empty shelves. Americans take massive pay cut. Oh, yes. A lot of what is happening, and I've said this over and over again, it is just becoming more and more obvious, right? It's just becoming more and more obvious that what is happening to the society and what I've been critiquing. Oh, this is pretty long, dude. 17 minutes.
Just now, nearly 6 months after we started to warn you about what is coming, mainstream media, CNN, Fox News, all across the board, they are starting to pick up the coverage that this financial crisis is here to stay. Wages are rising, they say, but inflation has given workers a multiple percentage point pay cut. We told you that this was going to happen. We said that as soon as they raise wages to a $15 minimum wage or start bringing in higher wages, the corporations weren't going to take less money. The CEOs and the shareholders certainly weren't going to take less million-dollar bonuses. Instead, they were going to raise prices, and those prices would negate any wage inflation. The average hourly wage grew 3.6% in June relative to last year, the most in more than 10 years. However, inflation grew between 2 and 5%, knocking down any bit of wage increase. Workers saw their hourly pay jump the fastest in more than a decade, they say, yet some of them saw those gains completely erased. And that's what we're seeing right now. We have friends in the nursing industry. We have one nurse in particular in Florida who told us that she had $5,000 saved, and it's all gone. Her diet hasn't changed. Her purchases and goods have not changed, but that money is gone because it was soaked back into the economy with this current rise of inflation. More workers, they say, are starting to see what they're calling real wages. That is, after adjustments for the cost of living, these wages are getting worse every single month.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that more and more people are talking the way that I'm talking, right? The inflation that is occurring throughout the United States has, and Canada as well, has a very clear and obvious cause, right? That during the pandemic period, the Americans printed trillions of dollars, and you can do that as a government so long as you tax the same amount out, right? As long as you destroy the same amount. Didn't do that, right? Didn't do that. And so, because of this, all of the outcomes are exactly as he's saying, right? Inflation is going through the roof. People aren't really going to be able to afford, and now the end of the eviction moratorium is coming up at the end of this month throughout America, right? That there has been an eviction moratorium that has been in place throughout the United States, and it's about to lapse. And it doesn't look like anybody, anywhere, is doing anything about it, right? And so you're going to end up, throughout August and September, you're going to end up with thousands and thousands of people being evicted from their homes. That this is what is going to happen all throughout America. Because this eviction moratorium has been raised, people can't afford the rent, right? Especially as the rents have been soaring through the roof because the billionaire class has been buying up property. And so what is the end result of this? The great irony of all of this is that, the capitalists are destroying their own system, right? And it's becoming so obvious that even mainstream sources are having to actually start talking about it as if it's real and it's happening, because to do otherwise is to literally close your eyes, which is what they've been trying to do up until now. And I'm glad to see that there are people out there who are actually reporting on these issues seriously. I mean, we are going to experience a period of neo-feudalism. I think it's unavoidable at this point. I mean, if we're not already in it, right? If we're not already there. For God's sakes, Jeff Bezos is shooting a rocket into space. Branson is going into space. Who are these guys if not, pharaohs or emperors, right? Like they're obviously like god kings and like, oh yeah.
Real wages are a measure of income after accounting for the cost of goods and services that the average person pays for. This fell by 2 to 5% in just the months of May and June. So imagine what it's been like if you're counting inflation since it started at the beginning of this year. The staples of American life, this is according to one senator, the staples of American life are increasing exponentially. Higher gas costs, laundry, airfare, moving costs, hotels, cost of food, televisions, everything across the board is rising. If prices are growing faster than wages, they say, then people are getting wage or inflation-adjusted wage cuts. That's according to Michael Strain. He's the Director of Economic Policy at the American Enterprise Institute. Inflation is a tax, says the Vice President of Moody's Investors Services. That's the best way to think about it. Inflation most impacts the foundation class of worker. And we've talked about this before, how that foundation class, that's every person who makes the rest of the world go round. That's the people who those are the people who have our utmost respect. Because without that, could you imagine walking into a Walmart if they didn't have a foundation class worker cleaning the toilet? Could you imagine what it would be like? If you want to imagine it, go look at what India is like. Go look at how people are just walking along the street, and then you look, the camera pans over to the right, and oh, there's just a guy going to the bathroom right there.
I like this phrase that he's using, foundation worker, right? Like, and of course, these are the least paid positions throughout America and North America, right? If you're like a janitor, or if you're like doing like this base work of like cleaning the society, right? You're disrespected. You're paid almost nothing, right? Like, and of course, it's already happening in Toronto, and it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. That people are going to, more and more people are going to be evicted. More and more people are going to lose their ability to pay their rent. More and more people are going to be abandoned by the capitalist system. Hey, Dan, how you doing? And our response to it is throw police at them, right? Like, there just comes a point where you have to admit that we are unhinged as a people. Like, this is unhinged what we're doing. Scrail. How's that? Wow, Scrail. That sounds that's like a barbarian, like, coming in with a giant sword sort of thing. And apologizing for being late. That's so cute. I assume people show up when they show up. I watch this guy regularly. He's good. Okay, you guys are all recommending it. I'm going to subscribe to this guy. He's got 195 subscribers. Looks like he's hitting the issues hard. Misty. Perfect. Welcome to our awesome and growing group. I actually super love this quote. I love this quote so much. So this is from Dinesh D'Souza, and this is just like an unhinged, absurd, disconnected rant. If the Capitol Police were this discombobulated by a boisterous walkthrough, much tamer than an Antifa assault on a public building and on par with what we've seen at innumerable campus occupations, I wonder how they'd hold up in the event of a real insurrection. This is in response to January 6th, of course. So, a fellow named Mo. Is there anyone that can recommend a serious conservative voice? I am talking about someone who makes serious right-of-center good faith arguments. Trolls are fun, but if I wanted to hear unhinged stupidity, I could listen to my unemployed brother-in-law. And of course, the answer to Mo is, very unfortunately, there is no such thing as a serious conservative voice any longer. That there is no such thing as a serious center-right voice, because the economy and the society has polarized itself so desperately and so dramatically that to be to the right of center even is to just throw in with the psychopaths that are destroying the place. Like, there can be no moderate position. there isn't even really a center position that you can tolerably take any longer. And positions that are like, things have gotten so outrageous and so obscene and grotesque that positions that used to be considered normal and like centrist, like everyone should have food, everyone should have shelter. I consider this to be a normal, non-political position. If you are saying people should not have food and shelter, you are a psychopath. That's not a political position, right? It is not a political position to withhold food and shelter from people, even though it is the backbone of how our economy works. And because things have gotten so outrageous and we're not making any attempt to actually ameliorate the series of crises that are facing us, there is no such thing as a serious conservative voice. Because you can't be serious. Like, you can't be serious trying to defend this system. Which is fundamentally, that's what a conservative is attempting to do. Like, the system has failed aggressively. It's failed in terms of its economic structure. It's failed in terms of its outcomes. It's failed in terms of climate change response. It's failed in terms of its crisis response to serious issues like COVID or mass shootings or police oppression. And the solutions that the society are coming forward with are take the money that we could use to ameliorate this suffering and erect a police state to oppress people with violence. So there is no such thing as a serious conservative in these situations. That to stand up in support of this system requires that you be either unhinged or overtly fascist. And there is no such thing as a center-right position under these circumstances. And that if you stand up, and because this is the arrangement where things are so polarized, if you stand up and say, well, I think everyone should have food and shelter, and maybe we should take the money that we're giving to erect this police state, and we should instead let people have houses. If you say those things, well, then you're on the far left. And there is no center. There is no center left or center right or any of that. It's gone. It's done. There is only far right fascists and anything to the left of that, which it gets called communism. So, DM, the whole January 6th Commission trial is a continuation of the TDS by the left. The left want to make sure Donald Trump never runs again for office. I mean, I understand why. Like, Donald Trump is like, in many ways, Donald Trump is one of the most dangerous figures to the establishment because not because he's going to go in and drain the swamp and actually do any of that shit, but because he makes it overt. He makes it obvious what they're doing, right? He takes the mask off. That's why Donald Trump is so dangerous to the establishment. It's not that he's not doing their bidding. He does do their bidding. It's not that he's like erratic or sporadic or any of that kind of shit, because he does what he's told by the people that matter. No, the trouble with Trump is that he makes them look like psychopaths. Like, that's the problem. That, Joe Biden comes out and Joe Biden kind of makes everything look a bit smooth. That Joe Biden can go in there and bomb the shit out of Somalia, right? Here's some reporting from Jimmy Dore.
So guess what's happening? U.S. military...
We love our pets.
Capitalism. Capitalism's doing capitalism.
So guess what's happening? U.S. military carries out first airstrike in Somalia under Biden. Isn't that nice that a demented guy gets to decide who to kill? Isn't that awesome? Isn't that great? Joe Biden is in his 70s. The 70s, that's the amount of bombs that Biden would like to drop in a week. And the decade he's living in. That's what it is. Here we go. Biden loves war so much you would think it was a young girl's hair. I won the White House for 2 things, war and ice cream, and right now we're out of ice cream. Hey, I wonder if Hunter is going to paint a picture of the bombs dropping. and then Brian Williams could buy it. Isn't it? Okay, so here we go. The strikes were carried out by military aircraft against Shabab fighters who were attacking members of the Danab, an elite American-trained Somali commando force, said a Pentagon spokesperson. Pentagon spokesman John Kirby told reporters that any planned strikes outside Afghanistan, Syria, and Iraq had to be submitted to the White House to ensure that the president has full visibility on proposed significant actions. You want to make sure the demented guy knows what's going on in Somalia. The strike came, he doesn't even know what's going on in his house. He doesn't even know what's going on in his own head. The strike came as the Biden administration was considering whether to reverse the U.S. military withdrawal from Somalia that took place under Mr. Trump.
So, I mean, he's just pointing out that, like, Joe Biden is operating in exactly the same way that Donald Trump is acting, right? That the two, there's complete continuity between their two administrations, that they're not different. But the trouble with Trump, like, Joe Biden can do this and sort of convince everybody that, you know, he's not a demented psychopath. Because, you know, when he stands up in front of people, he just is like, you know, come on, man, you know, all of this kind of stuff of saying that America's not great, it's just a bunch of malarkey, and, you know, America's the greatest country in the world, and we're gonna make sure that everybody in the country is taken care of because, you know, America's the greatest in the world. You know, that's Joe Biden. But Donald Trump makes America look like what it is, right? It makes it look like a fucking total psychopath. But in terms of their actions, they're exactly the same. So, for Americans, as long as things are super, as long as things are super calm, as long as things are like being done with this sort of even hand, Americans seem completely fine with it. Hey, John, how you doing, bud? Feel like I haven't seen you in a while. John says, hey, from one John to another, I'm always watching. Foremost, one day I'll show support to you through Patreon in a big way. Keep up the good work. Well, John, isn't that's foreshadowing of times to come? I'll be sure to tell my accountant. Get ready for a big influx of cash. Great opportunity to say, by the way. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, you guys. If you are donating, and you're donating like $1, maybe make it $2. If you're not donating, but you're a listener, please consider donating to the Patreon. Every bit helps. Every tiny bit helps. Okay. Capitalism, capitalism, capitalism. It doesn't work. I'm really, really hoping that one day I can stop with the capitalism stuff. I really do hate doing it. I hate saying to you guys, give me money. Give me money! I hate it. Desiree? Is it pronounced Desiree or is it pronounced Desire? Onansky. Evening, comrade. How you doing? I don't think I've seen you here, Desire. Desiree? Oh my god. I'm a disaster. What a train wreck. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you. Good to see you. One thing I wanted to point out. So Jimmy Dore is something of a contentious figure. Even regular viewers have a bit of contention towards Jimmy Dore. I think Jimmy Dore is a very important figure. He recently went on. Recently went on Joe Rogan's podcast.
His bad speech.
You tell me, but you know how they're doing that. If they don't like what you say,
Here it is.
what's this? PayPal to research
Hate
transactions
groups
that fund
and
hate
extremists.
groups.
But didn't they label Sam Harris as an extremist?
So that's the problem. So
Yeah.
then once you start letting some jagoffs decide who's an extremist and who isn't, who I think it's an extremist? I think Joe Biden is an extremist. Right now, Joe Biden, while he's denying people health care in America and a living wage, is bombing the poorest people in Africa right now, Somalia. 50% of Somalia are nomads?
Yeah.
And we're bombing that
What's
goddamn
going on
country.
in Somalia?
You
I'm not
tell
aware
me
of this
why
at
we're
all.
bombing. I don't know. There must be some oil there, or maybe batteries, lithium. Who knows? There's something there.
I'm not even aware of this.
Yeah, he just started bombing.
Is this today?
No, last week. I did a story on it already. It's up on my channel.
So this is to me why Jimmy Dore is important, right? Like Jimmy Dore is spreading this stuff around. Jimmy Dore is one of the few voices that's actually out there doing it, and you can critique him, and I understand if you don't like him, right? Like that's fine, but like he does good work. Like that is solid journalism. That's solid work, and so I've done a little bit of digging myself. And as you guys know, I try to connect every international story these days to the Belt and Road Initiative, because I generally believe that America's actions on the world stage these days are typically in response to this program. And there's two ideas that I think I'm coming out with. Idea number one is that it was a targeted drone attack in order to just maintain control of Somalia, which is this country right here, right? It's not Djibouti. And you see this green route here. This is what's called a maritime Silk Road, right? So one of China's trade routes connects into a port here, and then moves up, and then goes through the channel towards the Suez Canal. And the reason why the Americans need to have control of Somalia, and the reason why the international community really wants Somalia to be stable, is because you could start a piracy thing out of here. You've heard of Somali pirates, right? There was that movie, right? This is my boat now, right? Like we've seen that kind of stuff, and so the Americans do that by torpedoing anybody who rises up against their interests. So that's story one. Story two, idea two, is that this could be a larger idea of disruption of Chinese trade along this route. Now, I don't necessarily buy into this narrative so much with this particular one, because that's not going to be particularly effective. Like that seems like that's not going to be an effective way to go about doing that. But so for me, I think it really is like this. The bombing of Somalia is, and it's horrible to say this, the bombing of Somalia is largely maintenance bombing. Right? It's just maintaining the empire. That, some Muslims started to form up and start causing some trouble. We'll just send a torpedo in there, send a missile in there, and it's not strictly about oil. It's not strictly about oil. There's lots of resources to steal, right? There's lots of resources to steal. Like you can steal lithium, copper, even like iron, right? Like. If you've got these gold deposits, right? So like, there are lots of resources that you can steal from these people, and it's even better if you can enslave them in order to have them mine it for you. Things like cobalt, right? We're familiar with Elon Musk's cobalt mines, where they send literally 8-year-olds into these cobalt mines in order to mine out the materials for. Tesla's toys and stupid bullshit. Like, if we're not familiar with that, Elon Musk cobalt mine child labor. Like, Apple and Tesla among tech giants being sued over the deaths and injuries of child cobalt miners in the Dominican Republic. Is that the Dominican Republic? Yeah. The Congo, yeah. Knowingly benefiting from the cruel use of children as young as 6 in the Democratic Republic of the Congo to mine cobalt, a key component in lithium-ion rechargeable batteries. So, like, literally child slavery, literally child labor. They say the victims carried out back-breaking work and risked serious injury or death to earn up to $3 a day, right? And so going to our lovely world map, Google Maps, we're opening Google Maps. Google Maps. Right, so that's happening all in here. Now, my connection and understanding of African politics is actually woefully inadequate. I really started to realize this when I started to do research on this Somali issue in Somalia. That I know a fair bit about world history, and I know a fair bit about what's going on. But African history, I'm quite. You can't be an expert at everything. But I do know that going into a region and enslaving children to throw them into cobalt mines is probably bad, right? I think we could probably successfully say that that is bad. And this is the future hope of, we're going to save ourselves from climate change with these lithium batteries and solar panels and all this kind of stuff. Well, that's all happening because we're taking 6-year-olds and putting them into cobalt mines. The RIA adds that the children were forced to leave school to pursue the only economic option of artisanal cobalt mining. The term itself, the court papers say, is mired in controversy as it dresses up the fact that the workers, including children, work informally and use primitive tools to dig without safety equipment. And I've seen videos of this. I wonder if I could just quickly hit the videos tab. I won't dig too much deeper into this. Okay. So, this is the world you live in. Let's, oh, here is something. I was saving this one until there was a good amount of people in the chat. Good enough. Good enough. Yeah, if child labor laws exist in the West, if they could, they would, yeah. But they're not interested in that. They're not interested in that. We are dealing with, loathsome, villainous sociopaths. And to call them anything else at this point, this idea that we're supposed to be worshiping Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and all these guys, while they are the worst of us. They're the worst people on the planet. And I don't think it's close. I don't think it's close. So, here's a good news story, and I do consider this a good news story. We all quit. How America's workers are taking back their power. Motherboard spoke to economists and historians about why fast food and retail workers behind the country are suddenly quitting en masse. Something remarkable is happening in fast food establishments, retail stores, and restaurants across America. You may have seen photos of it go viral. You may have even experienced it in real life if you've dined at Chili's or Applebee's and the hostess apologizes for the extra long wait times. We all quit. Sorry for the inconvenience. Disgruntled employees posted in giant letters on the sign outside a Burger King in Lincoln, Nebraska earlier this month. Almost the entire crew and managers have walked out until further notice. Chipotle workers wrote in Philadelphia on a sign posted on the glass doors of their restaurant. This is a tweet from Davita Davidson. Remember when y'all told fast food workers that their jobs were for teenagers, and if they wanted a job with a livable wage, they should quit and work someplace else? Welcome to the revolution. It's a sign that says, we all quit, closed. From Eon Higgins. Dollar General workers in Elliott, Maine walked off the job on Sunday and Monday, leaving signs on the window telling the public that the company's disrespectful treatment and low wages were to blame. A sign that says closed indefinitely because Dollar General doesn't pay a living wage or treat their employees with respect. Hey, beer drinker, how you doing, bud? Closed indefinitely because Dollar General doesn't pay a living wage or treat their employees with respect. Retail workers scribbled in Sharpie outside a Dollar General in Elliott, Maine after the entire store quit en masse. In recent months, these mass resignations have been part of a national reckoning over a so-called labor shortage. On one hand, there are the businesses that want to continue to pay workers what they've always made, which is very little. On the other, workers and those who support them say there needs to be a fundamental reassessment of what work looks like in the United States. Why are low-wage workers quitting their jobs now? For the first time in more than 2 decades, fast food, retail, and hospitality workers have the leverage to resign from their jobs in protest of decades of deteriorating work conditions, which often include stagnant wages, unpredictable schedules, and no health care or paid sick leave. A better social safety net during the pandemic and a tight labor market in the fast food, leisure, and hospitality industries is allowing this to happen. Historically, these sectors are among the least protected by labor laws and the most precarious workers in the country. Many of them were deemed essential during the worst parts of the pandemic. It's an act of protest against abuses and exploitive conditions, said Patricia Campos Medina, executive director of the Workers' Institute at Cornell University. It's a sense of empowerment that workers don't have to tolerate that kind of abuse. For decades, large swaths of low-wage service work have proved difficult to unionize because of fissured workplaces and aggressive non-union busting by employers. Now these workers, many of them women of color, have taken the next best option, protesting through mass resignation. Many conservative pundits have blamed unemployment and stimulus checks for the labor shortage. In 2020, a relief bill added $600 per week to state unemployment benefits. This year, that has fallen to $300 per week and is set to expire on September 4th. But recent academic studies show that extra stimulus money and unemployment insurance doesn't seem to have kept low-wage workers from re-entering the job market more than usual. Many workers have just found other jobs, retired early, and even died. Employment benefits have given workers a little more time to find jobs and higher expectations in their job search. Workers have seen during the pandemic that when lawmakers chose to step in and act and protect people via stimulus checks, unemployment benefits, and health care, work doesn't have to suck as much. When workers are asked to do tough jobs, they want to be paid more. David Cooper, senior policy analyst at the Economic Policy Institute, said, "For the first time since the late 1990s, low-wage workers have the leverage to demand higher pay. The workers who walk out of Burger King are using this to their advantage." Historians say this is one of the few moments in modern U.S. history when precarious low-wage workers have really had this leverage. The other really obvious example of this was World War II, when you had even more government payments to people, said Nelson Lichtenstein, a history professor at UC Santa Barbara. It was money to use to go out and find jobs that pay better wages. Then, as today, those fleeing their jobs in the greatest numbers were the people of color and women. Real wages for black people in Mississippi went up 4 times, Lichtenstein continued. Some left for jobs in the ports of California. Women also left lousy jobs and white-collar work opened up, which was better. Domestic workers fled their jobs as maids and cleaners and got steady jobs in hospitals. When you give people an alternative, they seize the opportunity. The National Labor Relations Act of 1935 grants workers in the United States the right to form unions and bargaining with their employers for better wages and working conditions. But fast food and retail workers have long faced enormous barriers to forming unions thanks to franchised, contracted, and high turnover jobs. For example, there have been concerted efforts to unionize McDonald's and Walmart, but these have failed. McDonald's, for example, maintains that the vast majority of its workers are not employees of McDonald's, but work instead for franchises, and unionization would have to go franchise by franchise. or McDonald's would have to agree to sit down at the bargaining table. The workers who are walking out today are at the margins of formal labor law and standards, Jennifer Klein, a professor of labor history at Yale University, said. They don't have access to bureaucratic mechanisms of the state and law to resolve grievances, and they don't have collective power through a union. Low-wage workers have so often been rendered invisible, but now they're making themselves incredibly visible through informal means. Where are the workers going, and are they actually getting paid more? While some professionals are quitting because of burnout or existential crisis, according to a New York Times article about the phenomenon from April, low-wage workers don't have the savings or other financial cushion to leave the job market for extended periods of time, to explore passion projects and travel, Cooper says. But people are finding better jobs in the same industries, or entirely new ones. Cooper says the expanded social safety net has left workers wanting and expecting more, and has allowed them to spend a little more time out of the workforce looking for the right job. In general, unemployment benefits give workers the ability to wait for better jobs and better working conditions, said Cooper. They're taking time to pick the right jobs. Those jobs might be closer to their interests, closer to what they studied, jobs that are a career rather than a means to pay the bills. Still, while employers in certain regions may in fact be offering higher wages than they usually do, there's no data yet showing that employers across the board are paying workers more. Instead, many companies have resorted to offering hefty sign-on bonuses and other perks, such as free meals or cash for interviewing. In recent weeks, Amazon, where workers too are quitting, has offered enormous sign-on bonuses to warehouse workers across the country. For example, an Amazon warehouse in the Hudson Valley, New York, recently offered a $3,000 sign-on bonus if workers start before August 1st and work certain shifts. Employers are smart too, said Lichtenstein, the history professor at UC Santa Barbara. What they don't want to do is establish a permanent, higher norm. So instead of $15 an hour, they say, here's a bonus. You can have free lunches. We'll pay for your tuition. Employers will do anything to not improve wages in a permanent fashion. The myth of at-will employment. Conservative pundits love to belabor the point that in America, employment is at will, and workers and employers alike have the right to call it quits at any moment. If you hate your job so much, why not leave? This is a free country, after all, they say. In reality, for decades, saying, take this job and shove it to McDonald's or Burger King has become increasingly hard, thanks to stagnant wages, a lack of benefits, non-compete clauses, and long stretches of economic recession that make it very difficult for workers to build up the kind of savings or emergency fund needed to quit without going through serious financial distress. For the last 40 years, low-wage workers across the United States have seen their pay, benefits, guaranteed hours, and schedules get progressively worse. Unemployment benefits have been harder to access. Companies such as Jimmy John's, McDonald's, Carl Jr.'s, and Amazon have required workers to sign non-compete clauses and no-poach agreements that extend for months that legally bar workers from going to competitors in search of higher wages. Low-wage workers don't have the luxury to quit and wait 6 months to start working again, as a recent executive order from the Biden administration is attempting to address by banning and limiting such clauses. Flexibility to look for better jobs has been eroded intentionally through policy choices and campaigns to undermine workers' leverage and ability to expect more from employers, said Cooper. Raising expectations? When Aisha Townsend signed up to work at a McDonald's on the south side of Chicago in 2015, it wasn't because she loved the idea of flipping burgers and working at the takeout window. She had just had a baby and was caring for her mother who had Alzheimer's disease and a brother with epilepsy. It seemed like the best job she could get. I couldn't pay rent, she said. I couldn't pay lights or gas or cable, so I went to McDonald's and I said, God, please make a way to provide for my mom, son, and brother. Fast forward 6 years to this spring, after a year of working in a pandemic, Townsend quit her job after a bout of panic attacks that landed her in the emergency room and a recommendation from her doctor that she quit McDonald's to take care of her health. It was the anxiety and the heat. I worked all the way through the pandemic. It was very stressful knowing I can't touch my kids when I get home, she said. Part of the mass resignations can be attributed to the fact that the pandemic has raised expectations for safety and benefits in the workplace. Jobs that don't offer health insurance and paid sick days have never been desirable, but now some workers are saying they're done putting up with them. I think the most fundamental fact is that the fast food and restaurant industries are having a structural shift in how people see the jobs and that workers and consumers expect of the industry, said Campos Medina at Cornell University. Fast food has always been portrayed as the job of teenagers, not women sustaining families, but that is what it is. The pandemic revealed that people in these jobs have no job security or health insurance and couldn't qualify for Medicaid. Townsend, the McDonald's worker in Chicago who resigned, said she found now work in the gig economy, which also has its drawbacks, and is testing out different food delivery apps, Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Instacart, to see what she prefers. It got to the point where I was having chest pains. My chest was throbbing and my manager said, "You're fine," and wouldn't let me leave. So I just quit, she continued. I would never work at McDonald's ever again. And a big thing to the people, and I really want to point this out, a big thing to the people who are saying like, oh, this is all happening because the government raised benefits. Literally, the government raises benefits by like a couple $100, and this is enough to absolutely destroy the private sector system. How fragile and pathetic is your capitalist system that you're defending if it can be destroyed with the smallest, most insignificant incremental raise in government assistance? That's how fragile and pathetic and useless this capitalist system is. That it can be washed away with very basic, simple, insignificant shifts in public spending. Like, it's an outright admission. I remember when I was growing up, the capitalists constantly said that, if you created a public option, we wouldn't be able to compete, and the government option would just take over. And they would say it as if this was a bad thing. And as I've gotten older, I've come to see, like, well, then do it. Create a public option. Destroy these worthless capitalists who literally can't compete with superior models. And if you're telling me that you can't find workers because of a $200 increase to unemployment benefits, then capitalism is so weak it should cease existing. It should just cease existing and we should be done with it. And we should stop paying attention to anyone who says and stands up that, the solution is actually to do more capitalism. It's childish. It's pathetic. We can do better. We know we can do better. So let's get to it already. Oh, I know my little Milo boy. My little Milo boy's staring at his peanut butter Kong. Jonathan! Give me some peanut butter, please. Jonathan. I know that you're talking into your magic screen, into your little light box there, Jonathan. But if you could do me the great service of helping me get some peanut butter, I think that would be something that all of us can agree would be beneficial to the entire household. Really? Yep, October 15th, general strike. Here, yeah, straight up. I show this all over the place. I share this all over the place. October 15th, general strike. This has a real Occupy movement vibe about it, which is to say that it's not really that well organized and it's just going to kind of be a mass movement, it looks like. But I think that there's value in that. I'm not against mass movements. I'm not against mass mobilization. It's usually union-type folk who critique that sort of stuff because union folk only see unions as the solution. And union strikes as being the way forward. National General Strike, October 15th, 2021. Support the working class. $20 minimum wage, 12 weeks paid maternity leave, healthcare, 4-day work week, environmental regulation, 25% corporate tax. I really hate this because it's asking for scraps. Like, it's asking for scraps. This is begging your masters for scraps. Like, stop begging for scraps. Like, literally, these documents, like, these lines should outright say, get rid of the capitalists. They are worthless. Take over the businesses. Chase them out. Arrest and incarcerate the parasites. Delete them from the society. Like, why are they part of the... Why are we even talking to these guys? Get rid of them. Get rid of them. General strikes all across Canada in fast food restaurants. That should grab some attention. Yeah. They should. They should for anyone not getting full-time and benefits. The federal minimum wage of $7.25. I know, right? Like that. Like, I can't imagine believing that a minimum wage of $7.25. Like, it's indefensible. People who come into this channel and people who are still defending capitalism, they're deluded. They're like deluded on the same level as the flat earthers. It's like QAnon shit at this point. Like, it's like, it's so hyper irrational. It's so detached from reality to defend the idea that the federal minimum wage is $7.25. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, that's what a fucking joke. Hey Heidelman, how you doing, bud? Hey John, seriously, anytime a policymaker says minimum wage jobs for teenagers should be publicly humiliated. Yeah, like, you have to be delusional to say that. Like, have you never, ever gone into a McDonald's? Like, literally walk into a McDonald's. But they don't, right? They send their assistant. If they're going to get McDonald's, they're going to send their assistant, right? They live in a bubble where they're surrounded by, like, they are a rich billionaire dumb cocksucker, right? That's surrounded by a layer of millionaires and billionaires that they enrich, so that these people can be their assistants and, like, media moguls, and then those people have yet another layer of assistants who are making like $100,000, right? So they're also very wealthy and detached. And then those assistants have another layer of assistants who are making like $50,000, right? And those are the people who are going to go to the McDonald's, right? And then they'll go get the McDonald's, they'll give it to their boss, who is the executive assistant, and then the executive assistant will give it to the like vice presidential assistant, and then the vice presidential assistant will give it to the guy, right? And so the guy who's saying, oh, it's just teenagers working in there, he's like 4 steps removed. He's never stepped foot in he probably couldn't find the McDonald's if you told him to go find it. He probably wouldn't even know how to start finding it. As long as Nancy Pelosi gets her ice cream and tens of millions in stock profits. Exactly, yeah. Great argument there. I assume you're talking about the fact that capitalism is weak and that it can be defeated with, like, the most meager... Like, why do you think they're fighting so hard? It's because they know they're weak. They know they're weak. Like, it's all bluster. It's all just bluster and pomp and arrogance. But the truth of the matter is that if we all collectively on one day, let's say October 5th, 2021, if everybody collectively just went out into the street and said, that's it, we're done, that's it. It's over. It's over. It literally is like a Bug's Life level of weakness that these guys have. It literally is all the ants get together and say no more to these grasshoppers, and the story ends. Credits roll happily ever after. Because these capitalists are weak. They're incredibly weak. They don't actually have any power. Their power structure is entrenched deeply in the fact that they enslave us. And we are the ones that are actually making everything, that we are the ones that are actually building everything, that we are the ones that are actually doing everything, and they do absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing, except collect all of that wealth for themselves so that they can shoot themselves into space on cock rockets, right? And while they're doing it, they'll turn around and acknowledge that that's the case. These guys are stupid and weak. And they don't deserve to have any of this power. They don't deserve to have any of this wealth. They don't deserve to have any of this stuff. And we could push them over so easily, but we're so fucking exhausted and gullible that we can't actually do it. Like, John Wick, bar work require you to be legal drinking age and a certification to serve alcohol. No teenager at those jobs pay less than minimum wage before tips. In Ontario, it's $12.55 an hour. Yeah, which I still am just like, what are you fucking talking about? $12.55? Like, when are we going to start treating each other like we're fucking adults? Like, when are we actually going to start treating each other like we're fucking adults? Right? Like, and honestly, so what if they're a fucking teenager? I don't get this. I don't understand this argument even a little tiny bit. So they're a fucking teenager. So what? Does that mean we get to abuse them? Does that mean we get to abandon them? Does that mean we get to deject them from the society? Does that mean we get to treat them like second-class citizens? Why? Because they're young and vulnerable? This is like the argument of a pedophile. This is like a pedophilic kind of argument that, oh, they're young and vulnerable and supple and they do what I say and that means that I can do what I want to them and nobody will say anything about it, right? Fuck you. Fuck you. Get the fuck out of here with that. They're a teenager. I don't give a shit. Pay them the wage. Pay them the goddamn wage. I don't give a fuck if they're a teenager or not, because teenagers don't have fucking bills to pay. Because teenagers don't have any fucking problems. Teenagers don't have any difficulties going on in their lives, right? Teenagers aren't part of families that live in poverty and need as much money as they can possibly get to pay the bills as fucking rent skyrockets, as food and shelter skyrockets, as the billionaire class hoard as much as they possibly can for themselves while quaking and going like, we've got to hoard all this wealth because the system is collapsing because we're hoarding all this wealth. And they're so fucking stupid and moronic and sociopathic that they don't actually realize that all they have to do, right? All they have to do is, instead of having $100 billion, they have $1 billion, right? And, oh no, your quality of life didn't change at all and things are completely normal for you. Unless you genuinely believe that it's rational that Jeff Bezos can shoot himself into space on a fucking rocket. Unless you're genuinely like, yeah, he earned it. Obviously he earned it. Yeah, Jeff Bezos for sure works 5,000 times harder than I do. Yeah, absolutely. CEOs, you gotta be real smart to be a CEO. Yeah, you gotta be real smart to be a CEO, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. CEOs are worthless. They do fucking nothing. They do fucking nothing. And they're paid so much to be this worthless that when they are confronted with actually needing to do work, they just pay people to do it, right? Obviously, that's what they do, right? Somebody like Jeff Bezos isn't super fucking smart. He just takes his money and pays other people to do the work for him while he like sits there and goes, yeah, it's gonna be great when I get shot into the fucking space atmosphere. That's gonna be super good. Yeah, it's gonna be super great. And people who come at me and like worship these fucking billionaires, like, what the fuck is wrong with your brain? There's something wrong with your brain if you are going to stand in front of me and defend this system and say that Jeff Bezos and all these guys deserve their money when they are fucking morons. And this is who we're just ceding power to. I can't imagine why the society's collapsing. I can't imagine why things are getting so bad. I can't imagine why the society is declining. Could it possibly be that we've given the bulk of the economic strength to these illiterate, incompetent, narcissistic sociopaths who are literally spending money on these grotesque, absurd vanity projects instead of, like, attempting to help anyone at all? Could that maybe be what's going on? No, he earned it for sure. Yeah, yeah, for sure he earned it. Yeah. It's fucking morons. Ugh. So yeah, general strike October 15th. Shut this place down. Shut the whole fucking place down. Like, there's no reason to participate in this. There's no reason whatsoever at all to participate in any of this for even one moment. Stop participating. And I have a friend who, she was talking to me today about this, how she feels like, I feel like I want to do more. Like, I feel like I've got to do more. And I looked at her and I was just like, nah, it's exactly the opposite. Do less. We need to do less, okay? The earth knows how to heal itself. The earth knows what to do to take care of itself. The problem is that we keep thinking we need to do more. No. The answer is do less, and significantly less. Faster. October 15th, I hope to see everybody out on the street doing fucking nothing. Because that would be thousands of times better than the society that we've built today. That this worthless piece of trash society and its dumbass, stupid economy needs to go into the waste bin of history, and in 10 years we need to look back and be like, yeah, remember when we were doing that fucking childish bullshit? Remember when we were all little babies listening to these psychopaths about how to run a society? Yeah, but I'm so glad that we're no longer these incompetent, cringy teenage morons. Give me money! If you've made it to this point, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Come to my live stream, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm the Canadian Commie. Thanks for tuning in. Clip it. Ugh. If all fast food left the day to strike, stores would be screwed. Of course they'd be screwed. Right? And like, hey, Demand Better, how you doing, bud? Yeah, general strike, like, sent that early, great. Hey, Nine Tails, good to see you. I haven't seen you in a bit. M4A March was huge. What do you think of Nina Turner? Nina Turner's great. I haven't taken the time to do a deep dive into Nina Turner, so she could be running... I don't want to call it like the AOC grift. That's not what's happening with AOC, really. But like, the trouble with the American kind of imperial machine and the democracy that they have is that like people like Nina Turner can get absorbed, right? Everybody has a price, which fundamentally is why it's dangerous to even have a single billionaire in your society. This is something I talk about all the time, and I want more and more people to understand and get drilled into their heads, right? Having one billionaire in your society with $1 billion, so one person with $1 billion, is extremely dangerous. The most dangerous social failing that you can inflict on a society is having a single billionaire. It's as dangerous as lighting a fire in the middle of your house. Okay? And it is on that scale of danger because Anyone has a price. Everyone has a price. And if you have $1 billion, right, that price is not that high, okay? If somebody walked up to you and said, here is $1 million, I need you to stop talking about the CIA, you'd do it. Like, if somebody came into my apartment right now with right now I'd probably fight them with that judo powers, but if somebody contacted me, put a briefcase in front of me, opened it up and said, here's $1 million, stop what you're doing. Tough, right? And that's $1 million, right? So someone comes up to me with $1 million, right? It's a life-changing amount of wealth and tells me to stop doing what I'm doing. Okay, so that's like what? That's not even a percentage. Like that's 0.1% of the wealth of a billionaire, right? A guy with $1 billion, right? Like that's a vanishingly insignificant amount of their total wealth that they can just like poop out on people to be like, yeah, do my bidding, right? And it doesn't even need to be so clumsily done. It doesn't need to be like briefcase, $1 million, take the money, shush, right? It literally comes in the form of an invitation to a party, right? You show up at the party because you've been invited by the billionaire. The billionaire meets you and says, oh, hey, yeah, I've been seeing your stuff. Yeah, your stuff's really like hardline against me, and I really want you to, I want to change your mind about who I am, and I want you to know that I'm trying to do everything I can to help the society, right? And hey, here's Benedict von Cumberbatch or whoever. You two should connect, right? You two should connect. You could make like a really great project together. And hey, John, I know that you're a good artist. I've heard that singing voice of you. Well, here's the head of the symphony, right? Or the head of the fucking choir of whoever is Stan, right? Connect with them. Yeah, this is great. Isn't it great that me, your billionaire buddy who wants you to stop talking about all his malfeasance and stupidity, is creating all of these connections? I'm not bribing you. There's no suitcase. I'm just introducing you to people who I know because I'm a billionaire, right? And then at the end of the night, you have the best food you've ever eaten in your fucking life. There's like the biggest chandelier you've ever seen. There's a big fucking dance party. He introduces you to like your future wife. And then at the end of the night, he puts you in a fucking limousine or a fucking helicopter and says, hey, thanks for coming. I hope we have an understanding with one another. Good to see you. I'll see you at the next one. And you know what? God damn it. You will see him at the next one. Because guess what? He doesn't need to come at you with a suitcase with a fucking big bribe. He just needs to show you, I have $1 billion and you want to be my buddy. And that's it. That's it. You can't make that illegal. You can't criminalize that. Right? That is why a single billionaire in your society is extremely dangerous, because everybody wants to be that guy's buddy, even if he's a pedophile and a sociopath. Do away with it. Farewell to the billionaires. Goodbye. In my view, I think $1 million is outrageous. Like, bye. Get rid of this shit. It's trash. Farewell. Use this money to actually help people. From John Wick. I avoid all restaurants where I have to interact with who is making my food, such as Harvey's. Oh, you know what? Before I rush ahead, this was all because of Ninetales, Nina Turner. So everything I hear from Nina Turner, much in the same way like how everything I heard from AOC sounded really great, but we've all seen what's happened to AOC, right? We've seen how she has been steadily co-opted. We've seen how she's steadily like releasing pro-imperial propaganda. We see how she's steadily kowtowing to the imperial structure of the capitalist death cult. We see it. It's happening, right? They let her have her rhetoric on certain issues and things like this, but she'll never stand in defiance of the capitalist death cult. That'll never happen, right? Not until until she is so overwhelmingly powerful that it's possible. But even then, she's not going to turn against the billionaires. Look how powerful and influential she can be with the power of these billionaires, right? And the same thing will happen to someone like Nina Turner. She'll go in there with all the bluster and the fire and all that kind of stuff, and then she'll have one conversation with a billionaire, and that'll be the end of that story. Because billionaires, by their very existence, are dangerous. And they're very dangerous because they are the siren song, just by simply being there. They don't even have to do anything. They literally can sit there just being a billionaire, and you're going to do everything that they say because they have a fucking $1 billion. And they can introduce you to everything, and they can change your life in a second. They literally can just like listen to you talk, pick up their phone, call someone, and before you know it, you're having a meeting with your new career. And they have the power and the influence to do that. Why? Because they have a fucking $1 billion. And we haven't gotten into our heads as a stupid, diminished monkey creature that $1 billion is a lot more than $1 million. That $1 billion is like this overwhelming tsunami of wealth that just drowns everything in front of it. And that the entire society reconfigures itself to cater to the billionaire. Extremely dangerous. Get rid of them. Flush. And Nina Turner's not going to be any different. Because it's like it's like Nina Turner is saying, like, yeah, I'm gonna stand against the hurricane and hold this sword up, and the hurricane will be dispersed. That's not gonna fucking happen. You're gonna get wiped out by the hurricane, right? And so the only way to defeat these billionaires, which are a force of nature at this point, is with a stronger, more powerful force of nature, and that's this shit right here. That when humans get into a space with a single idea in their head, they are a powerful force of nature that can overwhelm the billionaire class. But the idea that Nina Turner is going to do it? Nah. Nice lady. I like what she says, but you don't defeat a billionaire with by standing in front of him and stomping your feet. Okay, John. I avoid all restaurants where I have to interact with who's making my food, such as Harvey's, Subway. I feel bad to tell a minimum wage worker to raise the minimum wage to a thriving wage. Thriving wage. Thriving wage. Well, and even better than that, let's just get rid of these capitalists and let the owners have the means of production, right? Let the owners own the place. Then they set their own fucking wage, don't they? Right? And like, yeah, every single time I've gone into a fast food place in this last little while, I went and got like a burrito today, and the ladies who work at the burrito place that I go to, real sweethearts, really wonderful people, and boy, I just hope they're being treated well, and I hope that things are going. They seemed happy, but acting is part of the job, right? That's something that nobody really talks about when it comes to these minimum wage places, right? Acting is part of the job. You got to be a good actor, right? Because if you walk around being a grumbly curmudgeon, well, they tell you about that. And I know people who don't get promoted. I know people who are held back because they're not very good actors. And they feel like they don't have to be acting. But guess what? You do, right? The capitalism demands that you distill out even your individual humanity. That you have to be a pretend person. And because I've been in retail for 15 years, I can see it instantly, right? I can see it instantly. I see through these people, right? The people who, like, the young women are the worst at it. Because they're like this. Like, hey, welcome to Starbucks. Oh, hey, what can I do it? That's such a good choice. Wow, what's your name? John? Is that with or without an H? And I'm like, get the fuck out of here with this. Get the fuck out of here with this pretend bullshit. You're like, you immediately can tell that it's fake. But you know for a fact that her manager loves her. You know for a fact the clientele who are like doctors, lawyers, engineer types are like, they fall for this flirty, dumb bullshit. Meanwhile, people who've actually been in the industry are just like, oh yeah, I'm familiar with this shtick, right? And you just know, like I know that when these young women are going like, wow, that's so great, thanks, okay, bye, they literally turn to me after doing that and they're like, ugh, these guys, they're so fucking stupid, eh? And I'm like, yeah. It's an act. It's always been an act. It's a script. And you know the script too. You're well aware of what the script is, right? Hi, welcome to establishment. What can I get for you? I would like the thing that makes me feel happy for a moment. Very good. Would you like that with X, Y, or Z? No Z, but lots of X, thanks. Great. That'll be bling blong bling bloom. Okay, great. Okay, thanks. That'll be over here. Okay, bye. And this is considered human interaction in America. This is literally considered human interaction in America. And that script that's built into your brain for millions and millions and millions of people is the closest thing to human interaction that they get on a daily basis. That literally their human interaction is wake up in their own house. The humans that are there who are also collapsing due to the weight of capitalism and the misery and the horror of all of that, you deal with them, right? And maybe you love them and maybe you're fine and maybe they do give you a little spark of joy, but you get out of the house, right? All you're doing all day long is having the throng of the public just jam in front of you, while to maintain your sanity, you hide behind this artifice of a person who's literally standing there just saying, I am the avatar of whatever. Welcome to corporation. I am the avatar of corporation. I am here to serve the needs of you, the public, who are here to pay the corporation. Ha 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 ha. And you're not a person. You're just a robot acting like a person, and then finally you finish your fucking day, go home, and just flop on the couch with the people you love who are doing the same thing, and you cry yourself to sleep so you can wake up the next day and do it again. Welcome to capitalist America. Real great system. Normal society, totally fucking functioning. Ugh. A lot of these kids are paying for college food. Yeah. Like, as if rent isn't like... Americans can't... the American minimum wage doesn't let people pay rent. Like, it's brutal. Uber had negative 170 million on its books while the executives made 300 million. I see the problem right there. Yeah. Well, because it's a grift, isn't it? And Uber is getting a whole bunch of subsidies, right? It's a fucking grift. It's like this overt, obvious, total grift that's right in front of your head. Hey Jay, how you doing? Down with capitalism. I agree. Lie flat like China. Lie flat like China. I don't know if I understand that phrase, but I kind of like it. Lie flat like China. Oh, are you referring to the, there's like a, what is that called? Lie flat movement. Yes. This movement that's happening in China, the lying flat movement standing in the way of China's innovation drive. Because if people are happy, that's bad. Like, this is what these capitalists are genuinely starting to sound like, right? We can't cure homelessness. We can't ameliorate homelessness and poverty because then people will be miserable. Like, I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast, and Joe Rogan outright said of the basic income, right? He just espoused this absolute garbage take of like, if people have their food and shelter taken care of, then they'll lose their meaning, and then misery will spread throughout throughout. And it just made me go like, what the fuck is wrong with your stupid brain if you think that removing homelessness and poverty from your society will spread suffering? That's his point. Removing homelessness and poverty and hunger from your society will make people miserable. That his imagined vision of what people will do, his imagined vision of people's misery matters more to him than the actual misery that's actually in front of him, that he can actually see with his actual eyes, where there are actual homeless people actually suffering, but his concern about the imagined misery that ameliorating the suffering he can see matters more. I think you gotta be fucking completely detached from reality to have this position. I think you have to be totally disconnected from what it is to be a basic human being living in the world. If you're walking around and saying, yeah, people who have their homelessness ameliorated, who no longer are starving on the streets, will be miserable. You've got to be a fucking clueless idiot to say that shit out loud. Like, that's dumb fuck level. Like, that's like dumb fuck to a level that completely discredits you in every single other position. Yeah, if you make it so that people aren't homeless, and aren't living on the streets and aren't hungry all the time, then they'll be miserable. What the fuck? What the fuck? That's some dumb fuck child shit. Time to grow the fuck up. Time to grow the fuck up, Joe. But we all know what happened to Joe. He got paid $100 million for going to Spotify, and he lost his ability to be compassionate. He lost his ability to be a compassionate, empathetic person. And he just became a business person. That's it. He just became a businessman, and he just lost his ability to actually look at a homeless person and think, that's a problem. We should fix it. Nope. Instead, if we fixed it, they'd be miserable. What the fuck is wrong with your brain? Oh, it's that $100 million you've got lobbed in there. Yeah. Hey, Mark, how you doing, bud? Yeah, I know panhandlers in Hamilton make way more than minimum wage workers in normal jobs. Well, and panhandling's no easy task either. People treat panhandling like it's just, you're just holding out a cup. What's the yeah, right. Yeah, if you're a handler, you're like the toilet for humanity. You take all of humanity's shit. And I know that's the case. I have literally sat across from a panhandler and watched them. Right? I've spent afternoons just doing that. Do yourself a real fucking favor. Actually sit down and watch a panhandler for an afternoon. Right? Don't be conspicuous about it. Don't be a creep about it. But watch them. You tell me that they're not fucking working. You tell me that they're not fucking working. Tell me that they're working, that they're not working at least as hard as those people who stand outside the stores with their little, just like, please come and try some stuff. Hey, look, I've got a little sample tray here, right? Who do you think is working harder? Do you think the young person holding out the sample tray with the stuff in front of the fucking Starbucks or whatever is working more or less hard than the absolutely crushed person who's collapsed onto the side of the street, holding out a cup to every single person that passed by and says, please, sir, can I have some food today? Which one of these two do you think is actually fucking working harder? Our society is so detached and so, like, incapable of rational thinking anymore. We're so unable to actually look at ourselves and say, oh, this is fucking not normal. Like, our society is not goddamn normal. Like, this is not a normal society. This is a hysteria-based, absurd-based society that has completely detached from anything resembling a normal society. What was I saying yesterday? We're like the society that someone would make to parody their society, but we're actual, right? Like, if somebody was living in a real society, they'd be like, I'm going to make a cartoon fake version of a society that people will look up and be like, ha! Wow, how do you think of this stuff? But we're it. We are it. Remember when we're pissing in bottles so rich guys could go into space. Exactly. We should make a monument to Jeff Bezos. We should make a monument to him, a picture of his face that is the size of an Amazon facility made entirely of piss bottles. We should have everybody, and it should be specifically the piss bottles that come from his workers. So every time a worker pisses into a bottle, they give it to us, and then we put it on the ever-growing Jeff Bezos Tower of Piss. You should ask for 20 million, 1 million is breadcrumbs these days. But this is the thing, is it wouldn't be if that was it. If the limit was $1 million, it wouldn't be. Like $1 million used to be like a fucking amount, man. It used to be a thing. Facebook and other social media seems to auto-suppress any posts I make about unions, general strikes, or socialism. Yeah, get used to it. Get used to it, demand better. It's only a matter of time before I'm gone, right? It's only a matter of time. Like, everybody go to my site, thecanadiancommie.com, and bookmark that site, because that's where I'm going to have to eventually start organizing from. This redirect that I do to YouTube, that's going to stop eventually. There's no way that continues. Like, these guys are eventually going to shut the whole thing down. Like, they're not going to tolerate rational, empathetic, compassionate people who are trying to shut this sociopathic nightmare society down. They're not going to tolerate that. Like, they're not going to tolerate that for much longer. I've actually told a girl once to cut the crap with me if she wants a tip. She was great afterwards. Yeah, and you know what? They like that. Like, they're like, as soon as you establish that, like, I'm really not here, like, you don't need to act. You don't need to pretend. I, in fact, would prefer it if you didn't. They're fine with that, I think. And I actually, it's the people who, like, the best servers I've ever had are the ones who just came up and were like, yeah, hey, we're all having a shit time, yeah? You want some food? Yeah, the script could literally be automated. Become an NPC. Yes. The NPCing of our society, right? That we're all supposed to be an NPC. That it's the customer. But the thing that's so fucking annoying about that is that the server is an NPC, but so is the customer, right? They're also an NPC, right? So we're just a bunch of fucking NPCs talking to one another. So that Jeff Bezos, the actual PC, can just fire a rocket to the moon. I'm the greatest! Fucking idiot. A lot of these people just see people as colored poor because whites aren't bad. They're fine. Well, around here, bringing back grocery carts with the loonies still in it is $50 a day, no taxes. Rockfin is pretty good, too. I don't know what Rockfin is. YouTube better not. We've come a long way. Greetings from behind the cornpone? Is that what that word is? Cornpone? What the fuck is cornpone? Greetings from behind the cornpone curtain. Oh man. Good to see you, Onward. Always good to see you too, bud. No, I for sure. It's just starting now, right? They're already demonetizing people. They're already taking people down. I'm talking about YouTube. They're already picking away, finding where the Rockfin. Okay. Here, I'm going to write that down. Let's take a look. Rockfin. All right, I'm going to look into this. Is this... Okay, because part of the problem that I've been having with lots of these alternative sites is that they don't just let you post. You need to, like, earn credits or something, or you need to earn cred by, like, commenting and liking on other people's shit. And then eventually, if you gain enough traction, you can actually start posting. But you can't just start posting. But I mean, I am going to have to start focusing on alternative medias. Like, it's going to have to happen. Like, And when YouTube goes through and does like its mass censorship, it's going to do it for a very good reason, right? It's going to do it for a very good reason, which is it wants money. It wants money for itself, and it doesn't give a fuck. I love this lying flat movement, by the way. And of course they're reporting on it like, oh, it's standing in the way of China's innovation. Because the capitalists are well aware that the most dangerous type of person, like, we all have that image of like a Buddhist monk, right? Buddhist monk sitting there, meditating, doesn't want anything, isn't really interested in has a very minimalist outlook. That's the most dangerous person to a capitalist. Because if you have no want for anything, you can't sell them anything because they don't want anything. And if they're like a true Buddhist, they don't have this like whinging anxiety and self-deprecation. So you can't solve them a solution to, you can't sell them a solution to the problem of themselves, right? And and if all you want to do is just like tend to your garden, chill out and be alive, well, then you are the greatest threat to capitalism that exists. Capitalism requires this sort of persistent and perpetual thrum and drive for stuff, for just shit. And it's got to be new shit all the time and new stuff all the time. You can't just take the shit you have and live with it. Like, we have so much shit. We've got so much shit. I'm genuinely of the opinion that, like, if you can't guarantee me that the thing you're building is going to last at least 20 years, then it shouldn't be built. Period. Period. We've got so much shit. We've got so much fucking shit. If you want to build a new version of the shit we already have, because we've got a ton of it, then it's got to last a fucking long time. And the more I talk about this, the more I'm just like, 20 years? Make it 40. Like, fuck this. I'm over it, man. I'm like over these capitalists. Like, all of their whining, all of their whinging, all of their childish bullshit. I'm over it. We know that they're sociopaths. We know that they're lying to us. So they're going to come up with some kind of grift to get around this. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that, like, China, there's like a lying flat movement where people want to chill out, which, by the way, is embedded in the culture of China, right? Like, they've got these fucking monks. They've got these traditions, right? And, like, people are... and like... Anyway. It's fucking... Lying flat is justice. The lying flat movement was jump-started in April when a post on Baidu titled "Lying Flat is Justice" went viral on the platform. A manifesto of renunciation, the post shared the author's lessons from 2 years of joblessness. The extraordinary stresses of contemporary life, the author concluded, were unnecessary, the product of the old-fashioned mindset of the previous generation. It was possible, even desirable, he argued, to find independence in resignation. I can be like Diogenes, who sleep in his own barrel, taking in the sun. Discussions about lying flat picked up pace in May as young Chinese, overworked and overstressed, weighed the merits of relinquishing ambition, spurning effort, and refusing to bear hardship. Sounds fucking great. Sounds fucking great. Isn't that what you want in a society? Isn't the whole point of being alive and in a society that everything is easy? Don't you want that? Isn't that what you want for the people around you? What is this manic, crazed idea that we should spread as much suffering as possible? What is this manic, insane idea that what we need to actually do is exhaust ourselves? So for what? Like, for what? Like, actually for what? So that, like, Jeff Bezos can shoot a rocket into fucking space? Who gives a fuck? Like, who gives a fuck about that at all? This is just childish bullshit we're doing. And the more I learn and the more I read and the more I find out and the more I discuss and the more I investigate and then the more I go back and reread and the more I look, the more I really do see that these capitalists are fucking just children who didn't grow up. They just never grew up. They're literally just kids. They just stopped growing at like 6. And they're just like, mine. It's me. I want it. Let's go to space. Cowboy hat. Yeah. Ha ha ha. They're fucking babies. And, like, the reason why they never had to grow up is because they've never been confronted with anything difficult in their whole fucking lives, right? They've never been confronted with reality, right? Their mommy and their daddy coddled them the whole time, gave them all the money that they wanted to pursue whatever the thing they wanted, and they just have been going up the whole time going like, yay! And, like, you got guys like Elon Musk, who obviously, like, has, like, a desire to please his daddy. He's obviously got major daddy issues. And because unlike the rest of the billionaires who are content in, you know, you fucking hate them and they don't care, right? That's most of the billionaire class, right? Like, Warren Buffett doesn't give a fuck if you think he's a psycho. He doesn't care, right? He's not there to convince you of that. Jeff Bezos doesn't care if you think he's a fucking sociopath. Like, he doesn't give a fuck at all. Elon Musk does. Elon Musk cares. He wants you to think that he's a genius when he's just a fucking moron. Right? He's just a daddy's boy with his apartheid emerald mining money who pays people off to print articles about how brilliant he is. He's the next Edison. What a super genius. He's never invented a thing in his fucking life. Like, everything his strategy literally is to buy companies and buy the rights to be called their founders, right? Like, that's literally his strategy. And he's never invented a goddamn thing. He's not intelligent. Like, go listen to his Joe Rogan podcast. The only reason he comes across as being even rational is because Joe Rogan takes him seriously, right? Instead of looking at him and being like, oh, you're a fucking dummy. Joe Rogan's like, wow, Elon Musk is in my fucking room. Wow, it's Elon Musk. I can't believe I got Elon Musk on the show. That's like Joe Rogan's position. Meanwhile, Elon Musk is just a fucking moron. Like, naming his kid that string of symbols? What a pretentious dick. Anyway. I'm in a bit of a mood today. But I'm in a good mood. I'm just in a good mood, but I think it's like I'm grumpy from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I'm like grumpy dwarf, but I'm like happy about being a grumpy. From Onward, this heat dome has finally hit the south. Tomorrow I'll probably have to abandon my office and move to another room. It's not equipped to deal with 95 degree Fahrenheit plus weather. What's 95 Fahrenheit? Fahrenheit to Celsius. 35 degrees is hot, dude. And I suspect you're in Atlanta, right? So your humidity is probably off the chain. Look, what's the humidity like? Probably like, what, 95? 100? Flat movement along the Canadian National Railway across Canada. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Blockading that shit is going to be super important. Did you see the pics of Lake Oroville? Nope. Lake Oroville. Oh, yeah. Gonna find that pretty quickly. Oh, more of this shit, eh? So this is California drought. Drying up Lake Oroville. Shutting down power plant at wildfire season peak. Well, at least they're finally reporting on this shit. Took them like 20 years. I think a lot of these fucking sociopaths finally are starting to put together that, like, oh, this shit's gonna destroy me too. Like, oh, climate change is actually gonna wipe everybody out. Oh, shit, better actually do stuff. You mean I'm not gonna be able to build just like a moon base and go live on Mars? Oh, yeah, dude. I need one of those swipers, right? Like that we had for one of the other lakes that we saw. Yikes, man, yikes. Yeah, here we go. This is good before and after. That's what we're looking for. Here's a great shot. Yikes. Yibbity yikes. This is like, at what point are we actually going to declare this a national emergency? Like, not like, I'm the liberals and it's a crisis and we're gonna ban straws, but like literally like, we need to recruit our admirals and generals and lieutenants and our majors and our corporals, and we need to put the entire force of our military behind how to resolve this issue as quickly and cleanly as possible. When are we going to call this a national security risk? When are we going to call this a major, major emergency that needs to be dealt with by restructuring our economy into a war economy? Why do I never hear any leftists anywhere from anyone ever saying we need to restructure our economy into a war economy? We need a war economy. We need to kill this economy. It needs to die as fast as possible. And we need a war economy in order to address the very serious national security risk that is coming our way due to climate change. And when the generals and the admirals and all of these guys come in and say, this is what we need to do, we need to do it. This seems very obvious to me. Like, this seems very obvious to me. And yet, you know, Joe Biden wants to fucking bomb Somalia some more, so forget about it, right? Hey, Aga, how you doing? Good to see you. Taoism, mindfulness, yep, minimalism, all of that shit. I'm a bit of a minimalist myself. Like, I don't like having a lot of stuff. Sometimes, like, people give me gifts sometimes, and I'm just like, great, so I'll throw that in the bin. Like, I don't keep stuff around. I'm not sentimental, you know? The best gifts that people can give me is just, like, food. Like, somebody gives me something I can eat, and I'm like, oh, that's nice, because then I'll, like, eat it, and it'll be nice, right? But, like, sometimes people give me, like, little trinkets and stuff, and I'm just like, that's just gonna go into the garbage. Like, or like I'll give it to somebody else, right? I'm just not stuff. My last girlfriend was really into stuff, like little trinkets and doodads and stuff. And she even had like shelving with like little boxes with little like things in it. And the best gift that you could give her would like be like a tiny little box. And there didn't even need to be anything inside of the box. You could just give her a little box, and she'd be like, "Oh, it's a little box." Oh. Not me. I am the opposite of that. Oh, and a power plant relies on that. Like, of course. Elon Musk bombed on SNL. Yeah, because he sucks. Like, he's not. He's like, he's not talented. He doesn't have a skill set. His superpower is being rich. That's it. And Elon Musk really proves to everybody that, like, if you have $1 billion, like what I was saying before, a single billionaire is dangerous because they force the society to be reconfigured to their will. Like, Elon Musk gets on SNL, why? Like, why? It's not particularly interesting. He's not useful. He doesn't do anything, doesn't invent anything. He's certainly not funny, right? He gets on SNL because he paid to be there, right? He went to whoever and said, I want to be on your show. And they said, oh, okay, here's what it costs. And so he said, okay. And that's why he's there, right? He smoked weed with Joe Rogan. He must be cool. Oh, ha, ha. Hey, Matthias, how you doing? I mean, it's unbelievable to me that marijuana is still like a criminal offense throughout the states. It's unbelievable to me that there are people going to jail and in jail because of marijuana. Like, fuck that. That's fucking dumb. Fucking dumb. That's what I think of that. Earth will look like the ironically named Venus pretty soon. Yeah, we'll just have like a fucking gas barrier surrounding us. And that'll just be from all the politicians talking. Ha ha! Nailed it. Yeah, Nestle won't do it till they have no more water to sell. Yeah. California residents urged to turn off lights and set AC to 78 Fahrenheit or higher. Worried about the power grid. Yeah, because it's all privatized, right? It's all privatized. So, like, you don't have actual regulation. You don't have actual code. You don't have any of this actual shit. So it's super easy to overwhelm the grid. Okay. I gotta give my dog some peanut butter or he is gonna lose his little mind. So I'm gonna let you guys...
Somalia is one of the poorest countries in the world, and we're bombing it. About half the population are nomads and do not have permanent place of residence. There's practically no functioning economy, and the country cannot cope with even the most pressing issues of health, nutrition, or education. So we'll bomb it. The U.S. military just bombed Somalia for the first time during Biden's presidency, says Jackson Hinkle. Odd move from the administration, who has consistently told us that we can't have Medicare for all, student loan cancellation, or a bold climate action because these policies are too costly. Biden has bombed Somalia. This is from Danny Haifong from the Black Agenda Report. Biden has bombed Somalia. He has also conducted the U.S. largest military exercise in Africa and threatened Ethiopia and Eritrea with regime change, yet anti-war forces haven't grown. The role of Democrats is to ensure the brutality of imperialism is rendered more palatable. So he's saying while Biden is ramping up all these wars, the anti-war movement isn't awakening up or growing because when the Democrats do it, no one gives a shit. And that's exactly right. What exactly has the push Biden left crowd been doing? They've been having brunch. That's what they've been doing. What have the push Biden left crowd, what have the Young Turks been doing? They've been advocating for more bombing in Syria and repeating CIA talking points while they smear anti-war journalists like Julian Assange and Aaron Mate. That's what the push Biden left has been doing. Sorry, but pushing Biden left is violent and quite frankly divisive. We have to wait until after the midterms when the Dems lose the House and the Senate, says Chris Hayes, a scat muncher. So, Graham, it's great. I think Tulsi Gabbard was proven wrong. We're not doing too much interventionism. We're not doing too much imperialism. Foreign wars are good. Bombing poor brown countries are great. Go ahead.
No, I think the people in Somalia...
Like, I will say over and over and over again, right? Like, you can be critical of Jimmy Dore, that's fine, but he is probably one of the most important voices because he's completely independent. He's not responding to these corporate... And he has a moral core. Like, he has this sort of moral perspective on how things should be running. And he's not going to put up with this shit, right? And there are things to critique about Jimmy Dore, of course. Like there's this great phrase that I've been using for Joe Rogan that I think applies to Jimmy Dore as well, which is Jimmy Dore's a good man. He's still a man, but he's a good man, right? And I think that applies pretty firmly. And the fact that he's willing to platform people like I don't think that happens in this clip, but like Max Blumenthal, like Ben Norton, Aaron Mate, Matt Taibbi, even like he's desperately trying to make things better somehow. And I'm glad that he's here. I'll be sad when he's gone, which I suspect will be soon. So, here's a great story. Leaker of drone secrets gets 45 months in prison. Former Air Force intelligence analyst Daniel Hale will serve nearly 4 years in prison for sharing information on U.S. drone operations with a journalist. Yeah, a former Air Force intelligence analyst was sentenced to nearly 4 years, leaking top secret, including those aimed at locating and killing terror suspects. What was his quote? What I'm really here Hale, who choked up at times as he delivered a 17-minute statement to the court, expressed no remorse about his disclosures, but deep regret about having played a part in lethal U.S.-run drone operations in Afghanistan. What I'm really here for is for having stolen something that was never mine to take. Precious human life, Hale said. Unbelievable story, this. And it just goes in with a more of that, like, the American empire telling everybody, if you out us, if you tell people about what's happening in the capitalist death cult, if you inform people about the war crimes that we are certainly guilty of, if you are in any of that, we will arrest you and put you in prison, right? If you tell people about the crimes that we commit, we will incarcerate you. It's very clear. And yeah, Onward, I'm not a huge Door fan, but I like how he triggers people. And honestly, I have a lot of respect for people who literally are just like, I just don't like Door. Like, I just don't like him. I'm like, yeah, I mean, what can you do, right? Like, he is who he is. And like, for me, I respect the work he's doing so much. And it is like, you think about the work that he's doing, like that's incredible work that he's doing. I'm able to kind of just like get over it, you know? Like, I know guys like this from back home, and it's like, yeah, like they're just sort of like smarmy assholes professionally. Which isn't to be mean to Door. I don't mean to insult the man. I mean, I'm sure he doesn't give a fuck at all. He's never gonna. Oh, a little deviation. Let's have a little bit of fun here. It's not all just like a horror show where I'm screaming at you guys. So this is the Olympic Games for Tokyo 2020. I'm gonna refresh just in case something new has happened. So, right now, Japan at the top of the heap. While they have not the most amount of medals, I think that distinction belongs to the United States with 31, they have the most gold medals. 4 silver, 5 bronze. Right behind them, China with 12 medals, 6 silver, 3 bronze. United States in 3rd place. Now, what's funny about how these rankings work is that it's based exclusively on who has the most amount of gold first, and with the most amount of medals being the tiebreaker. So I just love this narrative that's showing, like, here's Japan and China ahead of the United States. Like, that's really got to make the United States be like... And if you're wondering what ROC is, it's that's Russia. That Russia has to do some kind of weird workaround in order to get people into the Olympics. They can't be there as Russia. They have to be there as like the Russian Olympic Committee or something like that in order to be considered part of the thing. And it's all just bullshit politics and stupid. And stupid! And Australia, Germany. They're skilling mentally handicapped children because they might... Oh, they're killing, I suspect, what you meant. Yeah, because they might be terrorist bombers. Yeah, we're in a like might be kind of phase, right? Where like our imagination matters more than the reality. That like what we imagine is what is most important. And you know, if you're a fucking group of sociopaths, you can imagine a lot of fucking weird shit. So, climate change news. More than 3,000 people evacuated from Northern Ontario First Nations due to wildfires. They're spreading throughout the region. There have been complete evacuations of Poplar Hill and Deer Lake First Nations, while vulnerable residents have been moved out of Pikangikum, North Spirit Lake, and Cat Lake. All requests for evacuations have been facilitated by the province. Over 600 wildland firefighters continue their efforts to contain and suppress the fires in the Northwest, utilizing all available land. Now seems like a great time to Ontario wildfire map. I know the British Columbia map is really good. I've never actually found a map that's any good, so this is actually kind of somewhat risky. Okay, no, that's a great map. So, any of the yellow that you're seeing along this map are considered new. Any of the orange are considered active. Any of the gray... So if I selected it, oh, hold on, it's coming up. Any of the gray that's coming here are considered fires that are out. So I mean, you can see how... I like to show the gray just to show like how much activity there has been, right? That there has been a ton of wildfires throughout the region already. And of course, these sections where they're blacked out like this are what's considered restricted. So you're not allowed to go into this area, or it's restricted because of these wildfires. And you're looking at like places like Thunder Bay, right? Kenora. You know, it's completely possible that a fire can come through and wipe these places out. Like that's on the table. And we're not declaring this fucking a national emergency? Like it seems. Meanwhile, you pop on over to British Columbia, BC, what do I even look for? Fire map. Why am I struggling with this all of a sudden? Stupid brain. Stupid brain. I got a really, really stupid brain. I got a really, really stupid brain. Sometimes. Yeah, so this is just getting spicy. Spicy is a word. Head on down to Kamloops. I know I've got a regular in the chat who's around Kamloops region, so I always like to go down to Kamloops. Looks like we got a kind of new fire system over here. Always remembering that the town of Lytton, if I can find it, the town of Lytton burnt down already. Tons and tons of fire all through here. Not a national emergency, though. Not worth mobilizing the military to deal with this. Certainly not. Certainly not. Suppose your child just decided that they, at this time, do not want to go to college, but you're paying taxes to forgive somebody else's obligations. You may not be happy about that. Slay Queen Pelosi. Yeah, this absolutely asinine argument, right? This absolutely asinine and stupid argument that says, why should I pay for someone else's X, right? And X being any variable you want to slot in there, right? Why should I pay for someone else's health care? Why should I pay for somebody else's garbage collection? It's all the same argument, and the outcome is always the same, is that if you don't pay for someone else's garbage collection, then your streets will be covered in garbage, right? Because people won't be able to pay for the garbage removal because you live in a society that systemically impoverishes people actively and on purpose. And so you will have people who will not be able to pay for that service, and then suddenly your streets will be covered in garbage. And you know what these guys start to do then? They start to say, oh, well, then we need to fine those people, right? If you leave your garbage out, we'll fine you, right? And then you turn around and you say, so you're willing to pay for a police officer to deliver a fine to a person, to pay for a lawyer to defend that person, or to pay for a bureaucrat in order to file the fine, and to pay for a judge to move forward with that fine. You're willing to pay for all of that, but you're not willing to pay for a garbage man to pick up their garbage. And it's always the same story. Every single time. Because these guys are sociopaths and they are stupid. And, like, oh, I don't want to pay for somebody. Why should I pay for somebody else's education? Because I don't want to live in a society full of stupid people. And neither do you. You don't want to live in a society filled with stupid people. You want to live in a society that's filled with highly educated people. That's what you want, isn't it? Like, isn't it? Don't you want to live in a society that's filled with highly educated people? I do. Why don't you? What, you want everybody around you to be a fucking moron because they couldn't afford for the education? Seems like a really dumb idea, if you ask me. Seems like a really stupid position to take. But, I mean, big surprise, people who are like, individualism is a thing that is real and actually works, are also like, I'm here I am on the land my daddy gave me, and it was given to him by the government, but I don't like government handouts. Like, that's how these guys think. So big fucking surprise. Well, the person can't pay for the service. They won't be paying that fine either. Yeah, there's that. And so now you're what, paying for prison services? Now you're incarcerating people, right? Or now it's what, community service? Like it no wonder our police budgets are so inflated, right? No wonder our police budgets are just outrageous. No wonder, like, things are fucking losing their minds, right? No wonder the police budget is like 3 times the amount as like the education budget. Like, no matter, like, this is the quality of our citizenry. People walking around being like, well, I don't want to pay for somebody else's garbage removal, and then we're going to fine them, and so I'm willing to spend 3 times more in order to fine them instead of just fucking pay for the removal, you dumb fuck. Like, and these guys, they get so up in their own ass about it because fundamentally at the end of the day, it's just a way for them to wank themselves off. It's intellectual masturbation is what it is. It's them jerking themselves off while saying, I'm the greatest! I'm the greatest! Because if you actually take your cock out of your hand and actually, like, even think for a second about what's going on in the world, you realize pretty fucking quickly that you're complaining because you have to pay to improve someone's life. That's what you're complaining about? Like, this is the quality of our citizenry right now. Hey, the Max, how you doing, bud? Good to see you. We get each other sick, so paying for healthcare makes sense also. Getting rid of poverty would also benefit us all. Yeah. I want to live in a society with no homeless people in it, please. Like this is the thing that's astounding to me about these arguments, is like, they're so narrow and short-sighted, like, they're so stupid that, like, I don't know how you can take them seriously even on the face of them. Like, I want to live in a society that's full of homeless people. I want to live in a society that's, and this is, I have actually done this to these rural farmer types who have been like, I don't want to pay for someone else's healthcare. I've been like, yeah, I want to live in a society that's full of broken down people. That's what I want. Oh yeah, I want to live in a society where there's homeless people all over the place. Yeah, doesn't that sound like a great idea, living in this society where there's all these fucking poor people begging for money, right? Oh yeah, nothing gets my engine cranked more than having to spit on some homeless person as I walk on by, tell him to get a job, you lazy bum. Yeah, it makes me feel so big and powerful while I go drive my fucking truck that's bigger than a tank. Oh, get this, guys. Get this. Trucks bigger than tanks. Look at this fucking book. I cannot believe this shit. American trucks and SUVs have gotten as big as World War II tanks. Look. Is this the one that had the... No, this is the other one. It was the other one I need. Get out of here. This is the one. Daily Mail. I should have known. Daily Mail. They know how to talk to the people. That's why they're popular. Because they know how to talk to these fucking guys. Look at this. This is a German Panzer. Get the fuck out of here. This is a German Panzer, right? Ford F-150. Fucking look at this. This is your world. You live in this world. The American Sherman, the Panzer, the F-150. They're the same fucking size. Dodge Ram, the Soviet tanks, the British Cromwell, fucking bigger. Like, this is the world that you live in. So that these guys can drive around in these fucking tanks while simultaneously turning around and just telling everybody, I don't want to pay for somebody else's health care. Why am I paying for this building that's just full of books? Why am I paying for somebody else so they can read a book? It doesn't make any sense at all. They should pay for their own books. I shouldn't pay for books. They should pay for their own books if they want a book. Like, this is the quality of our citizenry right now. People are arguing about paying money so they can be living in a society full of educated people. Is the society really full of educated people? No. We're a very stupid people. Like, I used to say that at least Canada was better than the United States. I don't say that shit anymore. Like, we had our, like, one little moment after World War II where a preacher stood up and said, hey, maybe healthcare? And everybody went, yeah. And since then, it's just been a total fucking gong show. It's just been morons and idiots just spewing dumb bullshit on each other's faces. It's like, the best we get now is like Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson just whinging their stupid bullshit. Oh yeah. Well, no, you can't help people, because if you help people, then they lose their incentive to actually go and do something. If you help people, then they'll be they'll stop being citizens. And you got fucking idiots like Joe Rogan being like, yeah, if you make it so that people can't have aren't homeless, then they'll be miserable, right? People need to be homeless, or else they'll be they can't find meaning, and because meaning is suffering, and if they don't suffer, then how can they find meaning to get out of suffering? And that's what needs to, happen. Fucking, this is it. This is the discourse. This is where we're at. Like, no, people need to be abandoned to the streets in misery, because if we don't abandon them to the streets in misery, then they'll be miserable. Fucking what? Fuck this incoherent goddamn bullshit. It's so fucking stupid. And this and really just comes back to, like, the reality that, like, the unfortunate, sad reality that fascism is extremely popular, right? You just start talking fascism to people about, like, the core tenets of what fascism is, and people eat it up. They're just like, yeah, that sounds great. I am the author of my own story. Yeah, I will just stand up straight and move forward. That sounds wonderful. Yeah, you know what? You're right. Those filthy poors, they just need to stand up and do better. They're not as excellent as I am. This, like, self-aggrandizing, like, self-worship. Ugh. General strike. Let's do it. Let's just fucking do it. Burn the place down. Fuck all this shit. Fuck all this shit. Fuck all this shit. Yeah, I love this tweet. You ask Congress for a national $15 minimum wage, and they write a bill to draft women in war. Yeah. Yeah, the poor just need to stop being poor, If they don't want to be poor, then why are they choosing to be poor, Poor people just decide to be poor, and then they come. I mean, really think about it, Let's say that a person decided not to be poor, then they wouldn't be poor, right? Like, this is where we're fucking at. And you see these, like, absolutely grotesque, like the Daily Beast, where you got, like, the 5 guys with their dumbass cigars sitting on these, like, big leather couches talking to one another, and they're fucking psychos. Like, these guys are fucking psychos. They actually argue to increase taxes on the poor. They actually argue that it is moral to tax the poor more. Like, these guys are fucking just barbarian psychopaths. And nobody's willing to actually say, hey, have you noticed how fucking psychopathic these guys are? Anyway, it's got to be better in Canada. Let me sit my banjo down and take the straw grass out of my mouth, and I'll tell you. Come on, Onward. Do you know a guy? Is there somebody in your life around you who, like, plucks on a banjo with the straw grass in the mouth? Have you seen this? Is this normal? Like, is that just some stereotypical bullshit? Like, be straight with me, okay, bud? Like, don't bullshit me. Have you seen a guy on one of your walks or while you're exercising or something, sitting on a porch, plunking on a banjo with the straw in his mouth? Has that happened? Even in the last, like, 6 months? And it like, you guys gotta remember, man, like, Canada, like, Bob and Doug, I should have done this on YouTube. Like, this is the electorate. Capitalism, gotta get in the way of what you're talking about.
How's it going? Okay. Boy, like, I don't know what's going on. Why the letters didn't come up?
The letters?
Yeah.
Oh, there they are.
Okay. Good day, welcome to the Great White North Canadian Corner. I'm Bob McKenzie, this is my brother Doug.
How's it going, eh?
And today's topic, what was it?
How come Americans have twist off beer caps?
Yeah, okay.
And
So, like,
Canadians don't.
this is Canadian beer, right? And, like, here's a regular top, and you open it, right? But American ones, they don't have any, right?
This is the electorate. This is them, right? They're just, like, basic Canadians, right? Just dudes, right? And so often, it's just like people have forgotten somehow that this is it. Like, and more importantly than any of that, this is like the best we've got, right? Like, this it doesn't get, like, much better than that. And people forget all the time, especially politicians, especially, like, because they're all surrounded by intellectual people, and they're surrounded by doctors, they're surrounded by all this shit. These are the guys who are voting, that they are going out and they are voting. This is why we have Buck-a-Beer Doug Ford. This is why we have this, like, neoliberal kind of bullshit. Because it's so easy to trick these guys into believing stupid shit is smart. It's so easy to trick these guys. Like genuinely keep watching this and tell me that they seem nice. Yeah, don't get me wrong, they're nice guys. They'll help you out if you're in a pickle, right? But, like, watch this and really think to yourself, yeah, these guys would basically believe anything you told them.
Right?
They twist off.
You ever seen them?
Yeah, I have.
I was talking to them. Okay, so they go like jam or ketchup or other twist offs. The American beer is like that. Why is our topic? Okay, go.
Okay,
They'll believe anything you tell them, right? You could tell them literally anything you like, and they'll believe you, right? And part of the issue is it's because they're so nice, right? That like, well, why would they lie? Like, what are they doing? Telling a big lie like that? That doesn't make any sense. They're you know, like, we're all in this together, aren't we? We're trying to work things out and make things happen, eh? Like, why would anybody tell, like, a big lie like that, right? And it's because they're nice. Like, and Canadians have this we're nice kind of ethos and mythology surrounding them as we, like, exhume mass graves and shit, but whatever. But, and that's another thing, Ruth, right? Ruth is saying, I never watched it because it was unbelievably dumb to me. But, like, and this is, we watched this. And it is unbelievably dumb. It is unbelievably dumb. This is like Canadian iconic shit. Like, these guys made a movie, right, with these characters. Like, these guys, and it's partially because, like, they're so nice. But because they're so nice, they can't imagine that there are fucking sociopaths around them. They don't get that, like, there are people who are walking into their environment and actively lying to them for the purpose of deceiving and abandoning them. Right? They don't understand that that is the case. And that, and so when you're talking to this electorate, when you're talking to these guys who are your electorate, right? You gotta really make it, you gotta talk to them like they're good old boys, right? You gotta talk to them like this. You don't have another option. Because if you try and bring out charts and like your high-minded policy or any of that kind of stuff, they're literally just going to tune out. Like, they literally are just going to tune out. They're just going to be like they're not going to fucking pay attention. They're just going to live in their little la-la land. They're going to talk about like twist-off beer tops and shit like that. And your point is going to be completely missed. This is my big complaint about the left when it comes to talking to these guys. Like, we gotta scare these guys a little bit more, man. Like, we gotta be willing to scare the shit out of these guys a little bit more, right? They spook easy. We know how easy it is to spook them. Hey, those immigrants are coming to take your jobs. What? Like, that's how fucking easy they are to spook. Like, literally, you could tell them any narrative and they'll go along with it. And we can't seem to scare them when it comes to, hey, have you noticed that the lakes are drying up? Hey, have you noticed that the world is on fire? Hey, have you noticed that everything's going to shit? Hey, have you noticed that Jeff Bezos is shooting a rocket into space while your grandmother is working her third shift at Tim Hortons? Hey, have you noticed how everything's terrible and yet there's these billionaires walking around? Hey, have you noticed all that shit? And we seem to be completely unable to spook these guys into going, oh yeah, maybe we should do something about that, eh? Oh, but the immigrants are taking your fucking jobs, though. Oh, the immigrants are coming to take my jobs. Like, and I don't think it's particularly difficult. It's just that we're being too, like, we think that people are rational. They are not. People are very explicitly not rational. Like, they are non-rational. Most people make decisions from their gut. Most people make decisions from their gut. That, like, right here. If I were to put it in a chakra sense, you guys know the chakra poster I got back there. Most people, most people get here and then stop. They get here. You know why? You know why? Because that's the pleasure chakra. Because that's where pleasure lives. You ever have like a big belly laugh? Where ho, 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 ho. It's your pleasure chakra literally bouncing up and down, right? And as always, I like to preface this chakra talk by saying, I don't give a fuck if you think it's real or not. It's completely irrelevant. It's just something to think about. Like, everybody lives in their dick, right? And then that energy comes up into their pleasure chakra, and then they fucking stop. They just live there, and they're just like, oh yeah, give me as much pleasure as I can get a hold of, right? And then if they have to deal with the pleasure, with the power chakra, it's just to make sure that their wages are taken and they go back down. And then the heart, right? And then the throat. My favorite part about the chakra system is that the throat chakra happens before the mind chakra. So literally, thoughts come from your dick and go on up, and they can just come right out of your mouth. Right? Because thoughts, energy hits your mouth before it hits your brain. You ever meet a guy who's like literally no filter, like does not think before he speaks? That's what's happening. Thoughts are coming from his dick and coming out his mouth. Anyway. Mach says, Western society is just going to collapse into a society resembling 10th century feudal Europe. And they're going to roll back every public service. Disease will be as rampant as it was during the plague. Yeah, I actually think that's the model. It's going to be like techno-feudalism. Like, this is what they're talking about with this Great Reset shit. Like, and it's 100% because they don't know what to do, right? They're very stupid. Like, the people that are leading us are very stupid. They're not intelligent. I mean, they're so stupid that they actually thought that neoliberalism was going to work. But they're clever, right? And what I mean by that is, like, they know how to lie to you. They know how to manipulate you to get what they want. But they don't see at all that doing this is self-destructive. That, like, it's like the leaders of the CEO of ExxonMobil, right? He gets a thing that sits on his desk, and it says, climate change will absolutely destroy us, and we are 100% doing it with this industry. And that's his own people saying that to him. That's not somebody else coming to him. That's his own people coming to him saying, the oil industry is going to destroy us because of climate change. This happens in the 70s. If they were smart, right? If they had intelligence, they would go, that's a fucking problem. I still do want to make money, but let's begin the transition away from fossil fuels now. That I would go to the Democratic leadership that we elect, and I would be like, this is a fucking problem. As the CEO of one of the industry, I think that we should transition away because I don't want to die. Right? Is that what they did? No, they did basically the exact opposite of that. They funded a propaganda campaign to try to convince people that fossil fuels were not causing climate change, that climate change didn't even exist in the first place. They created a hoax, right? Which they've all but capitulated and admitted to. And now their grift is to present false solutions, right? Present solutions that people will accept as solutions, but in reality are just bullshit. That's their new grift. Like the biofuel movement, which they pitch it as biofuel. Like, oh, it's biofuel, it's clean, it's not fossil fuels, all this kind of stuff. You know what it is? It's clear-cutting forests. Yeah, there's a climate change solution we can all believe in. Let's clear-cut the one thing that we absolutely must have, that we absolutely must keep, that we absolutely need. Let's cut that down and burn it so that why? So that Dundas Square can be lit up, so that Times Square can be lit up, so that Jeff Bezos can shoot another fucking rocket into the sky. Like, yet to be seen if there's intelligent life on Earth, dude. Yet to be seen. Big question marks around that. And yeah, like, as we begin to roll back, as this economy collapses, because it's going to have to collapse, I mean, it's going to continue collapsing as it has been. It's going to be like a feudal society that emerges, like in all but titles, right? It'll be exactly the same thing, but instead of like a king, right? You'll have a CEO, and we're literally like, what is a billionaire if not like a fucking pharaoh? Like, it's unreal, and the only way to prevent any of this is to take to the streets. That's the last, like, we don't have an option. Like, and what's so fucking annoying about it is that we're supposed to, like, worship these guys while they abandon us. We're supposed to worship these billionaires while they, like, literally fucking abandon us to a climate change apocalypse that they create. Like, and many people do. We're very stupid. Like, we're very, very stupid people. Onward, I grew up in a small town where I once saw a 4x8 piece of plywood nailed to a tree with stay out spray painted on it. That's pretty rural, dude. I've seen that. I'm from a small town too, and I've seen that kind of shit. Where, like, I know a fellow who lost his arm in a farming accident. Like, that's how fucking rural I am. I once went to a social, which is like a party for a wedding. It's something that happens in Manitoba. We call it a social. It's just a way to raise money for the wedding. And I once went to this social, and it was clear that the guy that was the DJ was a city guy, because he was playing all like the top 40s. But nobody was actually dancing, right? And it's like a wedding, and you're like paying for a DJ, and you're like, hey, I want people to dance and have a good time at this wedding, but nobody's dancing. What do you think's happening here, chappie? So they walk up to the guy and they say like, hey, we're a country crowd. Can you play some country music? And so the DJ like sighs and rolls his eyes and puts on Kenny Rogers, The Gambler, right? You gotta know how to mold 'em, know when to fold 'em. And so people start to get up and they start to dance. But the version of the song that the guy put on was a remix with like some rapper. I don't even remember the rapper. So it was like, you gotta know when to hold 'em. What? Know when to fold 'em. DJs. And the crowd came up in such an uproar about this that the groom and the father of the groom, as well as all the groomsmen, grabbed the DJ, threw him out of the hall, told him if he came back in, he wouldn't get paid, and then they just played country for the rest of the night. It doesn't get more country than that. It doesn't get more country than that, if you ask me. Humans are creatures of not logic, but emotion. It's both, right? Like, they have both. But the logic only goes so far, right? And it's funny because, like, you can actually see ancient Greeks understood this really thoroughly. And a lot of their speeches, they understood that, like, okay, you can have the logical argument, but the logical argument only goes so far. You also need the emotional argument. And the best speech makers in the Grecian Republic would do both. That they would have the logic and have the credibility of that, but then really try to find a way to get in at the emotion. And too often on the left, we are focused on logic, and we're focused completely on this idea that no, we're right, and we are, but that's not enough. It's not enough to be right? It's not enough to have the logical argument. You need the emotional argument too. And it's difficult because you are dealing with a class of citizenry that don't have emotions the same way we have emotions. They are sociopaths, right? So we're forced into a position where the emotions that we actually have to instill inside of the electorate are emotions that we as sort of soft, liberal, lefty types see as bad, right? But the truth of the matter is that we need to instill in the populace a sense of anger and a sense of fear. We don't have a choice. There isn't another option. We can't bubble gum and fairy dust and we're not going to be able to join hands and sing Kumbaya through this one. Sorry, too bad, right? We need to instill in these guys right here, a sense of urgency based on fear and anger. And we need to tell them who their enemies are, tell them what the consequences of ignoring their enemies are, and sick them on their enemies. We seem incapable of doing this. It seems incapable. The left seems unable to point at the CEOs of ExxonMobil and be like, these guys are villains. They should go to jail. And they should. And my position on this issue is as clear as it can be. That until the CEOs of ExxonMobil, of BP, of all of Shell Corporation, of all of these oil industry guys who knew what they were doing the whole time until each and every one of them are in jail, and I don't mean we're laying the charges, I don't mean we're fining them, I don't mean we're censoring them, I don't mean any of that. I mean in a prison where we lock them away and they can no longer be part of the society. Until we've done that, I don't believe that we're taking climate change seriously. I don't think we're taking climate change seriously at all. And that's my line. And I'm not going to budge from that for a minute. Until those guys are in jail, we don't give a fuck about climate change at all. Ruth, you're talking about like the cock to the mouth thing, right? Like the just like thoughts coming out? Yeah. Yeah. It's true though. Like, have you ever met somebody who just cannot stop thinking with their dick? That like their dick is obviously in charge? Like, and it goes the other way too. Like there are women that just think with their uterus. They're just like, that's where their brain is. They live there, right? It for sure is the case. And like, they can push up into the pleasure chakra because pleasure is nice and you wanna experience pleasure, sure. And like, but like, we have no sense of like our power, right? We have no, like, this is why we're so easy to push around, because we don't have any sense of our own personal power or of the power that we can bring to the table. We have no sense of our own self-esteem or any of that stuff. I'll get into this for you, Ninetails. You said love the chakra talk, so here we go, right? That like, we are basically stuck in our base survival mode, which is the root chakra, right? And we're constantly and perpetually moving forward simply in order to get our food and shelter taken care of. That's it. That is our base, like the basement of the chakra system where all energy originates from. It's also where our reproductive organs live, right? So under the chakra system, your energy begins where your reproductive organs are. And that is like the perpetual engine of being a human. That in the Western world, we have this idea that like, oh, thoughts originate in the brain, and the brain is in charge of the body, and all of that. The chakra system's like, no, that's obviously false. Like, your brain is not in control of your body. You're responding to internal stimuli like your dick, right? Like your uterus. These are powerful forces that are non-intellectual that you have to deal with as an individual, and energy originates there, and then if you can actually get that taken care of, then you can start worrying about pleasure, right? I've met men that didn't even get into the pleasure chakra. Their whole life was based around survival. I know those men, right? My grandfather was one of those men who literally his whole life was just like, gotta survive, gotta survive, gotta survive, gotta survive. To the point where, like, he finally was able to get out of that mode of thinking, but he was so entrenched in that mode of thinking that he couldn't do it. He never really found a way out of it. And but if you can, right, it involves like settling down, being safe, living in a fucking normal society maybe, and then you can find your pleasure chakra. And this is so important to us as humans that we're willing to sacrifice so much for it, right? We'll jam garbage inside of our face. We'll shoot drugs inside of our veins. We'll do anything we can in order to get these like momentary commodified versions of pleasure, right? Just like, please let me just watch a half hour of trash TV so that I can laugh at how stupid the buffoon is and be like, ha ha ha, or like fucking be like, yeah, Ron Swanson, there's a man's man, right? Like that kind of shit. But if you can actually get into a place where you're in control of this chakra, where you're happy with your life or you're experiencing pleasure in your life in a non sort of consumeristic consumption based way, or in this convenience store kind of way, and instead you can create an environment where that is manifest and is true in your own space and in your own life, then you can start talking about your power chakra and how you actually mobilize and move and all of this. Guys like this, they never get there. They never get there. And then from here, it's your heart, your throat, and energy comes up through this no matter what. Right? Energy comes up through this no matter what. And when you're not ready for that energy, it can whisk you away. And it can take you into complete otherworldly sort of things. And it's not until you get into then all of that energy comes into your mind where you can actually contemplate it and think about it. And then finally, it's the crown chakra, which connects to the cosmic energy. And when you realize that that's how it works, energy starts here and goes on up. Well, when you're talking to somebody else, it's the reverse. Your cosmic self goes in through their cosmic self, hits their intellect. You talk to one another, right? Maybe you fall in love, right? Maybe isn't that so sweet? You deal with the power dynamic that exists between one another. Find a way to enjoy one another's presence, and then maybe bone. Right? That's how it goes. Men are weak when it comes to pleasure. Women are strong because it's the one time they know they can get what they want in trade. That's very utilitarian, Ruth. That's ruthless. That's ruthless, Ruth. I fucked it up. Oh well. Well, and I think men are weak when it comes to pleasure because, women have always been allowed to be, I don't want to use the word decadent, that's not right, but women eat chocolate and they want nice smelling stuff around, and these things have become associated with feminism, or associated with being feminine, rather, where nice clothing and chocolate and all this kind of stuff, whereas men have kind of had that beaten out of them by our society, that if you want to have a bubble bath, you must be gay, that kind of dumb talk. If you want to wear nice clothing, what's wrong with you? You frou-frou? I remember I went back to my small town of Portage la Prairie, and I drank a vodka cooler, right? And it was orange or whatever. And the dudes were making fun of me for it. And I literally was looking at them being like, this is fruity and delicious. What's the problem? Right? And I knew they couldn't handle that. I looked at them and they were just oh. And I knew it off-put them. Because they're so used to being beer, yeah, beer. This disgusting tasting wheat filth. I'll just jam this into my face and that will alleviate the existential dread that I feel in the world. Normal society. That's something I should put on a t-shirt. Normal society. Just we are fucking not a normal society. And I think it's just time we start really acknowledging that that's the case. There is something deeply intrinsically wrong with our society. In a deep, 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 deep way. That almost everything we have believed for the last 60 years has been totally fucking bullshit. Almost without exception. And the exceptions are very, very, very small. Very small. When the defenders of capitalism find the exceptions, they don't come off looking good. They stake their whole claim on this one exception, and then you concede it, and then they're ha, I did it! And you're who gives a fuck, dude? Who gives a fuck at all? Do you think you have to start at one and move up, or they all just need to be open and cultivated? So, okay, Ninetails, that's actually a really great question. So, your chakras exist whether or not, they exist inside of you whether or not you pay attention to them, right? And again, I want to affirm, okay, it doesn't matter if you actually think there are spheres of energy. It's just about contemplating it. That's it. And so, but when it comes to actually going through your chakras and cleansing the chakra, so to speak, you do start at the root. You start at the root and you move up the chain. And if you don't do that, right? So think about it as if you had like a series of balls balanced on top of one another, right? You had a series of balls that were balanced on top of one another. Well, if you tried to move to the third ball before balancing the second ball, what's going to happen, right? The whole thing's going to tilt and come apart, right? So you got to balance the first one, then the second one, then the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. And you have to do it in that order. And if you don't do it that way, then the thing will become a kilter. And if you are attempting to skip through chakras to move up, that's very interesting, and you should take note of that. Why am I attempting to ignore the third chakra? Why do I want to move through the third chakra? My problem chakra is this chakra, is my mental chakra, is my mind chakra. And I know that's the truth. And why do I know that's the truth? Because as I go through my routine of going through my chakras, the one I want to skip every single time is this one. Every time I get to it, and I'm just like, okay, that's enough. I've gone through it, and I know that's true of myself, and that I want to just skip through it or finish. I get suddenly bored or suddenly distracted because of this. So you just kind of push through, you keep working on it, and you might have some kind of breakthrough. And if you are interested, I'm going to stop talking about the chakra thing because there's lots of stuff to talk about. But if you are genuinely interested in pursuing chakras, there is actually a really fascinating summarization that was done by Avatar in the children's television show, Avatar: The Last Airbender. You know what? I don't have enough time. But
in order to master the Avatar state, you must open all the chakras. And tell me everything you know about chakras.
What are chakras?
Oh, I see. I guess we'll start with the basics. The water flows through this creek much like the energy flows through your body. As you see, there are several pools where the water swirls around before flowing on. These pools are like our chakras.
So chakras are pools?
I'm going to stop playing this because I'm worried about copyright, but there it is for anybody who cares. And this is ostensibly accurate. Like they actually nailed it. Like and so somebody did a compilation of all of them and like talked about them, and they do sort of lose the thread near the end because if you remember in the story, Aang is told by this guru, oh, if you don't open up your final chakra, then you'll never be able to attain the Avatar state. It's like, no, that's just story. Excuse me, that's just storytelling. So but really, like, go through this, and it's reductive, certainly, because it's for kids, but it is ostensibly accurate, like, and I find it to be quite useful, because if only because it forces you to invert the way that you have thought about your body for probably your whole life. That we are taught by an institutional structure that we all spend like 12 years of our life in. We are taught that we are here, that we live here, right? That this is who you are first, and that this is just a vessel that you inhabit and that you operate in, right? And so I tell my hand to extend, and I tell my leg to extend, right? The chakra system, and of course, like, this is kind of bullshit, right? It's kind of bullshit. We're far more reactionary than we like to admit. We're reacting largely to external stimuli that are around us. The body is taking in far more information than your brain can process. You're taking in color, light, sound. You're taking in someone drops a glass in the apartment next to yours. Your body knows it. Do you? Probably not, right? Probably not. And we're taking in like millions of terabytes of information that then gets processed in our brain as we sleep and then manifests and is presented to us in dreams, which is why the study of dreams is actually so fascinating, right? That's some Sigmund Freud or some Carl Jung for you. And the mysticism and the big question of like, well, why these pictures, why these images, why these dreams, right? And but that process doesn't begin here, right? It begins in your reproductive organs. It begins in your base chakra, because that's really what's propelling and generating energy that we all have within us. This desire to have safety, this desire to have food, shelter, right? And if you don't have those things, then that's what you are attempting to pursue. Loaf says, which I don't know if I said hi to you, Loaf, but good to see you, bud. I'm kind of cynical about spiritual things. I'm kind of cynical about cynical things. Well, that makes sense. I'm kind of cynical about spiritual things since I left Mormonism. Yeah, that'd do it. But I think it would be really interesting to apply dialectical analysis to the idea of chakras. I think the thing that's really important to remember whenever you're starting to pursue any kind of spiritual thing, is to do away, like, it's so weird to say, but I think it's absolutely the truth. I think it's better to do away with the spirituality of it, to do away with the idea that the magic may be real, and to really actually investigate these things as a secularist, as an atheist might. Right? I actually do think that is the best way forward. As somebody who has come from a fundamentalist Christian community and has been living this kind of spiritual investigative life the whole time. Because once you do that, you really, first of all, you get rid of the hoob, right? You get rid of the charlatans and the frauds, like instantly. You get rid of these guys. Which is worth your time in the first place. So, but it also means that it's much harder to trick yourself. It's much harder to fool yourself, right? And what that means then as well is that you are investigating yourself in a way that is deeply honest and deeply real, because it's starting first and foremost with an acceptance that the contemplation of this is valuable, but not an acceptance that there is some kind of mystical magic going on, right? And that's what I always say, is that it's not about proving that magic is real or accepting that magic is real or accepting the literal existence of chakras or the literal existence of reincarnation or the literal existence of resurrection or the literal existence of any of this. It's simply about the contemplation of these things. Because, like, really, when you think about it, how often do you think about your body at all? Like, how often do you think about your body at all? Like, really be honest with yourself while I'm asking this question. How often do you pause and spend any amount of time thinking about your body at all? And when you do think about your body, how often are you thinking about your body like, oh, I'm a little chubby, I need to lose a bit of weight? How often are you thinking about, like, I need to work out, I need to bro down, right? How often are you thinking about your body that way, right? How often do you actually think to yourself, man, am I feeling any doubt today? Am I feeling any fear, right? Am I feeling, do I feel stable today? Do I feel unstable today? And each one of these attributes exists in each individual chakra. And it doesn't, and so it doesn't matter if you believe it's real or not. What matters is like how often are you actually contemplating or dwelling on your physical self. Not very often, I wager. And so this gives you an opportunity, and it gives you a way to move in to the conversation and to think about yourself and your place in the universe in a way that you don't. And the simple act of doing that, even if you are doing it as an atheist or a secularist, the simple act of doing that is itself valuable because you don't do it very often in the first place. So that's kind of my pitch on that. Joshua Kahn Russell talked about how his journey to better health involved an analysis of his gut health and addiction to sugar as dialectical systems with their own contradictions. Yeah. Hey, man, whatever works. Like, whatever works. And DM is saying, evict John Tory. Yeah, big time. Somebody said something about John Tory earlier, and I glazed over it. Yeah, it was you, bud. But before I do this, there's a big conversation about beer. Beer is terrible. Men only like it because they marketing with girls and guns or whatever. You know what, dude? I'm gonna countervail this. Beer allows a person to exist in the existential state without fear of the existential state. I think that's about as cleanly as I can actually say it, because I think it's accurate. That beer makes you dumb, right? And you can still exist as an existential being while being drunk, but you just don't care about it so much. And the secondary voice, like, here's something I talk about, and sometimes people come back at me and they say, I don't know about the secondary voice thing, and I'm a bit like, you got to start investigating this, because we have a dueling voice in our brain, right? There's a primary voice and a secondary voice. I hate using primary secondary because it assumes that one is superior to the other, but it's just the best I can do. Like there's a theta voice and a gamma voice. There's voice this and voice that. There's voice person and voice person, right? Like there's this and that, and they talk to one another. And one of the voices is more interested in your body, right? In you as a being in the world, like just your immediate surroundings, your immediate thing. This is the voice that's trying to see if there's a jaguar coming to eat you or not, right? This is the voice that's actually dealing with things like hunger, with things like sustenance, finding shelter, being accepted into a community, tribe, all that kind of stuff. And then this voice is the meta voice, right? This is the voice that takes the wider, larger picture, that sees you not through your eyes as an individual who's just trying to eat food and be a monkey, but as a part in the larger system that you live in, right? And that analyzes and understands and communicates back to you how other people in the world may perceive you. And these two voices talk at one another, and they're both valid. They're both completely valid, these voices. And a lot of times, this voice, right, the meta voice, manifests as anxiety and depression, right? Especially if you're not paying attention to that voice, right? Because if you're not paying attention to that voice, it's still talking, and it's still going to talk to you, and it's more powerful than you are, so it's going to find ways to mess with you and get its voice heard. And so you better start listening, right? You better start listening, because it's there, whether you like it or not, and it's more powerful than you are, and you are going to listen to it one way or another. Whether or not it needs to break you down to the earth or not, it'll happen. And so if it sounds like what I'm saying is like, oh, John, you're saying that like God is talking to you, like, no. Full stop, no. Like, this is pretty straightforward left brain, right brain shit. right? This is pretty straightforward, like neurological brain shit that we know about, right? You have two voices in your brain. One is focused on the mundane, the other is focused on the divine, if you prefer, or the meta, if you like. And they talk to one another, right? They chat. And both are ostensibly right. Both are in conflict with one another. One is not superior to the other. And I find a lot of times recently in the sort of back and forth conversations that I have between the meta and the mundane, that I'm finding that the mundane needs to shout the meta down. Because the meta is constantly being like, you can do better, like do this, do that, do the other thing. And this guy is finally having to say, hey, how about you fucking come down here and try this, you piece of goddamn shit, living up in your fairy tale land, right? I gotta pee and eat and shit and piss and I'm tired, fuck off. And then this guy's like, I guess so. And he fucking shuts up and he leaves, right? And so that's, but because we don't actually acknowledge this phenomenon exists, and it does, because we don't actually acknowledge like the dueling voices inside of ourselves and that that's legitimate and that there's a talking back and forth that happens where you debate yourself and you have conversations with yourself and you have all these kinds of things, because we don't actually talk about that, then people can end up ignoring especially the meta voice, but you can ignore the other voice too. And if you do, well then they're still talking and they manifest and they fuck with you. And they fuck with you because they're trying to get you to do something. They're trying to have something happen. And if you don't have like a clarity of thought, if you're not listening, if you're not allowing the conversation to occur, right? Or at the very least, if you don't know how to shut the conversation down, then it's gonna take over and it's gonna make shit happen for you. Or it's gonna shut you down. Anyway, I hope I didn't just discredit myself. You guys are sitting over there being like, this guy's got schizophrenia. It's basically the elephant in the rider metaphor that Jonathan Haidt uses in his book. He's a lib, so wrong about lots, but it's fairly decent. Yeah, Jonathan Haidt, anytime I get into his stuff, I'm literally just like, yeah, you're just a rich cocksucker. Like, you're just another one of these rich cocksuckers who disrespects the streets. That's all. He's just another one of these guys that, like, if you actually took him and put him out on the streets for a little while, he would completely change his tune. He, like, completely. Like, I think he's smart. I think he's intelligent. I just think that he has no respect for the street. And if you don't have any respect for the street, then you can kind of say what you like, you know? Feels like I'm always ending these streams on like the spiritual note. You know, it's something I've been thinking about a lot recently, about like, why is it that I recently read, if you guys are unfamiliar with this, The Intellectual We Deserve. This is like a pretty crisp, if not flattering, takedown of Jordan Peterson, right? And I read this again recently from Current Affairs, The Intellectual We Deserve. Definitely worth a look. Tell us another Jordan Peterson joke. I don't know if it's a joke, but like, this guy was fundamentally asking the question, like, because this guy's position is basically that Peterson is a fraud. Like, he's just like, and he goes through it. You can see it's very thick. I won't bother going through all of this because it's quite thorough. But like, he asks, well, how is it then that someone like Jordan Peterson is able to become as popular as he is? And another part of it, though, is that academics have been cloistered and unhelpful. Here, this is it. Another part of it, though, is that academics have been cloistered and unhelpful, and the left has failed to offer people a coherent political alternative. Jordan Peterson is right that people are adrift and in need of meaning. Many of them lap up his lectures because he offers something resembling insight and promises the secrets to a good life. It's not actually insight, of course. It's stuff everybody already knows dressed up in gobbledygook, but it feels like something. Tabitha Southey was cruel to call Jordan Peterson the stupid man's smart person. He is the desperate man's smart person. He feeds on angst and confusion. Who else has a serious alternative? Where are the other professors with accessible and compelling YouTube channels, with books of helpful advice and long QA sessions with the public? No wonder Peterson is so popular. He comes along and offers rules and guidance in a world of, well, chaos. Just leave it to Dad. Everything will be all right. And I think this was exactly correct about why Peterson is as popular as he is, because, and it kind of flows into what I say about him, that he's at least trying while everyone else is fucking not. And I think that there's something admirable in that he's at least trying. So, where, like, liberals aren't, they don't give a fuck, right? Like, the kind of faux left that exists aren't, right? It's just all kind of fucking bullshit. They're not even trying. And in many ways, I bet you we're going to be thankful that Peterson stood up and started doing the stuff he did, because it allows people to rebound off of and create the alternative that this author sees as lacking. Right? And we do need to erect that alternative. We do need to erect that alternative. Yeah, not everyone deals well with our age of nihilism. That's my deepest, darkest fear, Onward, is that we have Rex Murphy, but we have a generation coming up here, Gen Z, and we like to think about it like it's going to be sunshine and lollipops, because Gen Z and the millennials are going to ally with one another and dethrone the boomers, right? That's a narrative that I hear, and there is like this current of hope that runs through the conversation. But I have a deep, dark fear that Gen Z is going to look at the struggle we have ahead of us, see the mountain that must be climbed, and then the mountain that must be moved, and they're going to fall into nihilism. That's my deepest fear. And as they fall into nihilism, they'll pull the millennials down with them. Because we're right on the edge of that already. Like, we're right on the edge of that already. Yeah, that's a good one, DM. That's a good time to stop. It's a good time to stop. All right, guys. Good stream. Thanks for tuning in, as always. You are a divine being, standing in divine energy, and we could use some of it right now. Good luck. We're going to need it.